Hey guys, the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for February 7, 2025. This is a double show tonight. The first part, we're going to do a Super Bowl pick for Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles, as well as some props. In the second half, we're going to do DraftKings analysis. Our co-host for the first part, we will introduce him in 1 second. Before we do, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description of the merch store. I'm once again wearing the money laundering shirt. I wore that on Tuesday. And yes, I am still wearing it. I have not washed it. So this is how we do it here. This is just such a great shirt. I had to wear it 3 days in a row. I had plans to shower today, but my son was off from school because we had snow here. But you can get this shirt as well as many others here at the merch store. I believe it's still 15% off. Yeah, it's 15% off. You should probably wait until 25% off, but it's probably bad business. But still, you can help the show out by buying a shirt. Also, you can go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one, Jerks of the College Years, is what I made fun of people during my 6 years at Penn State. Also, I wrote a book called How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen, which is an expose about how Brett Favre tried to sabotage Aaron Rodgers 5 years ago. And then also, please consider Super Chats, Super Stickers. That's the best way to support the show because YouTube's paying nothing these days. It's Q1, so the ad rates are very low. John Sanders helped us out on Tuesday with the Super Chat. And then also we had Slew, we had Alan Stafford, we also had Can't Make an Eagle. So you guys have been so great with your contributions. Just really appreciate it. All right. We're joined in the first half of the show by Andy Isco. Andy, how are you? And how's your preparation going for Super Bowl 59? You're unmuted.
Yeah, there we go. I'm fine, Walt, and I'm unmuted now. That doesn't mean I'll be unfiltered, but that's okay. Nonetheless, no, my preparation continues. I'm at the point now where I'm looking to give me a much closer look at the props. Tomorrow, Friday, is a day when I'll generally go around and make some prop wagers, maybe reevaluate a few, see what some of the numbers are doing. And, I've already got my position set for the game itself, so that's already taken care of. But I'll be looking at some props. I'm sure I'll be discussing a number of them this evening.
Yeah, can't wait to get into it. Before we get into the pick, how easy was this game to handicap for you? Was it a tough one or was it pretty simple?
Well, remember, I mentioned that I had the exacta. Okay, so I already had Chiefs over Eagles, Eagles over Chiefs, and I had a separate wager from actually about 15 minutes after last year's Super Bowl on the Chiefs. So I was pretty much set that I was going to be in good position either way. As far as handicapping, the way that I ultimately, I made an ultimate decision, and I'll share that in a bit, but the handicapping approach was basically, in many games, you find teams with several weaknesses and some positives and vice versa. In this game, it's hard to find too many weaknesses overall. And then it's reflected in the point spread, meaning that if I'm on Kansas City and you make an argument for Philadelphia, I can't disagree with you. If I'm on Philadelphia and you're making an argument for Kansas City, I can't disagree with you. Now, my overall evaluation of this game is looking at the fact that these two teams basically were dead even 2 years ago when they met because the game came down to the final 8 seconds and a field goal. Now, Philadelphia did need to rally from behind with a touchdown and 2-point conversion to tie the game at 35, but and there was still 18 seconds or something on the clock, or some small number that was the final field goal. I think was about 8 seconds to go. In any event, the game lived up to billing. It was competitive. Now, when I compare this year's Philadelphia team to the Philadelphia team of 2 years ago, this is a much stronger team, much better balance on both sides of the football, much better balance on offense than the team 2 years ago, largely because of the acquisition of Barkley. But then again, you also, if you want to look at the defense, which was good 2 years ago, excellent this year, you add to the mix Jalen Carter, the kid from Georgia, who was not on the team 2 years ago. He was a rookie last year, and he showed great improvement this year. So Philadelphia, I believe, is a stronger team than 2 years ago. At the same time, I think Kansas City is not as strong as it was 2 years ago. Their numbers are down significantly on offense. Their numbers are somewhat better on defense, but I think overall the talent on this year's team is not equivalent to that of 2 years ago. Now, clearly, both teams, at least the players who are on both teams now and 2 years ago, are older. I don't know that necessarily has a significant impact on it because there's several players on several key players on both teams. And of course, even though I talked about some of the newcomers on Philadelphia, Kansas City's had some as well. So when I look at that and then I take a look at the experience factor, that clearly favors Kansas City. Well, I shouldn't say clearly. Most people believe it's a huge difference or a huge favor of Kansas City. I don't think it's as huge as a lot of people think. Why do I say that? Say everything you want about Andy Reid. You can't criticize him. He's won Super Bowls. He's the leadingest coach, the winningest coach into both the Eagles and Chiefs franchise. But you take a look at Nick Sirianni. He's been there 4 years. His team's been in the playoffs 4 years. He's in his second Super Bowl in 4 years. So yes, whereas Kansas City has the experience, it's not, for example, if Kansas City were playing the Washington Commanders this year, or even if they were playing a team like, let's say, the Green Bay Packers. Okay, so there is an edge for Kansas City experience. I think that, however, you can make a case that whatever edge the Eagles have in talent is somewhat compensated for by the edge and experience that Kansas City has, making it a difficult game to handicap without looking beyond some of the numbers, because the numbers are pretty good. They do favor Philadelphia, but the intangibles, I think, in many respects, even that out.
I think you can make the case 2 years ago that the Chiefs had a big experience edge, not only because they played in a Super Bowl, but two Super Bowls already under that regime, but also because they knew about the slippery turf in Arizona, and they had the correct cleats, and the Eagles didn't, and they were slipping all over the field. The pass rushers couldn't get to Mahomes for that reason. It was just a mess, and the Chiefs just
that by the way was the fault of I don't even want to call it the advanced prep team for the Eagles. They should have known that.
They should have, but you know what? The Chiefs played there in Week 1 that year, and they complained about the slippery field then, and so they
and that's but that's what the Eagles should have known about.
Right, exactly.
The issues that Kansas City had. I mean, I remember it, but I don't think it was as big as big an issue was made of it as of the time. Now, I don't know if any things were undertaken following Week 1 to address Kansas City's complaints. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't recall, but nonetheless, you'd have to think that Philadelphia had access to that information, but either didn't believe it or certainly didn't use it.
Yeah, and despite the Chiefs complaining, like you said, nothing was really done because it was still slippery. It's actually probably even worse.
Because it's been used all season, sure.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. But yeah, we know the Superdome will be fine for football. There shouldn't be any of these sort of situations. Although I believe it was the last time they played in New Orleans, the lights went out. So maybe I don't know if
it's been that long. Well, I remember that was the 49er Ravens game.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the last time they were in New Orleans. I think it was.
It may have been.
For a while, I had been going to the Super Bowl locations for media events. That stopped when my kids are born. Now I don't want to leave my wife with the 2 kids under 3. So I haven't gone to the Super Bowl locations in a while. But I used, I can't remember the last time we went to New Orleans outside of that Ravens 49ers game. So I think this is the first time there. So hopefully there's not an outage again. We have to sit around for an hour in the dark, but
true.
So I'm looking forward to this game. It's good. It should be a fun one. I gave my pick already on Tuesday. I will, I guess I'll repeat what I said, but what Evan and I did was we broke down the offense for both teams, and then we went into our picks. You said you didn't see any big advantages for either team. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you break it down, it depends how finely you break it down. I'm looking overall. If you look at individual units or individual players, you can find some edges. But I think on the whole, if you give let's say 5 edges to Kansas City in one area and 4 edges to Philadelphia in the other area, and then you look defense and you make it a 5 versus 4 or something, they somewhat cancel each other out. And I think that's why this game is at Pick'em.
Yeah, I think if there is I think if there is a big edge in this game, I think it might be the Eagles' pass rush against the Chiefs' tackles. Just because, the Chiefs' tackles have been terrible all year. Mahomes has been complaining about them. He even ran one guy out of the field. He said, put Joe Tooney in there over Wanya Morris, and they cycle through these tackles all season. And the only Super Bowl that Mahomes has lost so far was against the Buccaneers when Tampa just rattled him with so much pass rush. His offensive line couldn't handle it. Now that line had weaknesses in the interior as well. This one does not. As long as Joe Tooney stays at guard, they're great in the interior. Now, if Tooney has to play left tackle, that's going to be an issue with Jalen Carter dominating. But the Eagles have the talent to take advantage of it. The Bills did not. The Texans
I think
did.
most people give, briefly, I think most people, and I can understand it, give the offensive and defensive line edges to Philadelphia.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I think the tackles could really hurt the Chiefs here, especially with Brandon Graham coming back too. That's another key factor that I didn't even expect before I saw the news that he's been limited. So I assume he's going to play probably 15 to 20 snaps.
What was he today? I didn't get a chance to look at today's practice reports.
The only two limited players were Brandon Graham. He's limited twice, and Devontae Smith limited twice with a hamstring. Everyone else was full, including.
That was they're calling it now? I thought yesterday they called it an illness for Devontae Smith.
I think that was. I'm going to check and make sure, but I think it was hamstring for Devontae Smith. The illness was for Jalen Carter.
Carter, okay, that might be then, yeah.
Yeah, Jalen Carter was full today, so no need to worry about that. Everyone else is full except for Sky Moore, limited for the Chiefs, but he doesn't even play, so that doesn't really matter. Matt Ariza popped up on the injury report, but he's full with an illness, so that's not a factor either.
I would really say, compared to recent Super Bowls, this is about as healthy as both teams have been in many years coming into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, no real injuries here, so that's definitely true. So anyway, like I was saying, I think the big edge here, if there is an edge in this game, I think it's the Eagles pass rush against the Chiefs tackles. I think that could really impact this game. We saw it in the divisional round with the Texans. They got to Mahomes pretty well, and they limited the Chiefs to 211 or 212 net yards of offense. Yep. Now, they did lose 30 yards of offense on that drive where they took the intentional safety, but still, they still didn't get to 250 net yards. And so I think the Eagles could do the same thing to the Chiefs. So, I mean, how productive do you think Kansas City's offense is going to be in this game?
No, well, it's Kansas City, so right. They don't need to be productive like in that game against Houston. They just need to make the right plays at the right times, and they have a knack for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But who do I think will lead the game in total yards? Should be the Eagles, and it might be by 75 or more.
Okay. Pollyanna says another weakness is a running back. Yeah, Pacheco barely playing. Kareem Hunt. Just pretty mediocre at best. Eagles are number one against the run. I don't think the Chiefs will be able to run the ball either. It's a great point here. I think the Chiefs are going to be one-dimensional here, and whereas the Eagles are going to be two-dimensional. Saquon Barkley, I think, should have a huge game.
Mahomes might end up being the leading rusher on the Chiefs.
That's true.
Seriously.
I agree.
So he's gonna have a lot of unscripted. Well, he'll probably have some design plays, but he'll probably have a lot of let's call it improvisational runs that could take advantage of a confused defense.
Yeah, against that pass rush. Yeah, absolutely. And then Saquon Barkley, I think, should have a huge game. The Chiefs' run defense in the playoffs has been pretty bad. They allowed
their run defense in the last 4 games. Even if you go back to that 202 yards, I think, for the Steelers in a game they won by 19 points. Right. The game against Denver doesn't mean anything, but the defense still gave up an awful lot of yards. In fact, I've got the stats on that because this is one of the points to make. They gave up, I think, 147 and 149 in their 2 playoff games. If you go back to the start of the season, Kansas City gave up 185 games in their opener against Baltimore. That was Derrick Henry's first game. The next 14 games, they held every team under all 14 teams under 140, 10 under 100. Then those last 4 games are the ones where they allowed the 202. I forget what the one number was to the Broncos, although that game didn't really mean all that much, but it's still yardage that the backups who might have to play this week would have given up. So yeah, I think and I think you've got the numbers also. If there's a vulnerability for the Eagles, it's against tight ends on the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Eagles they allowed a big game to Tyler Higbee. They allowed a big game to Zach Ertz. Even Colby Parkinson scored in the divisional round. So I do think Travis Kelce and maybe to an extent Noah Gray should do pretty well here.
I'm hearing a lot of support for Noah Gray for scoring at least a touchdown in this game.
Yeah,
And I think both. I think both tight ends will have good games.
I think so too. Yeah, you were mentioning the Steelers game. So that's something I forgot because I've been mentioning how the Chiefs have done against the run in the playoffs. Now Joe Mixon ran for 88. James Cook ran for 85 and only 13 carries. That Steelers game, if you combine Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, not even Russell Wilson, that's 145 rushing yards and 24 carries. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then Russell Wilson scrambled for 55 yards and a touchdown. The Chiefs, I mentioned this a couple times so far in the playoffs. Chiefs very bad against scrambling quarterbacks too. So that's another edge for the Eagles here with Jalen Hurts being able to run.
And by the way, Jalen Hurts has shown that he's not as hurt as he appeared.
Yeah, and
he's healed. He had a nice game against the Rams. He had a really nice game against the Commanders.
Yeah, and that was 2 weeks ago. So any lingering issues he had against the Redskins that we didn't see, like they're going to be gone. So I do think the Eagles have the mismatches all over the place, except for the tight ends. But on the other hand, the Chiefs are horrible against tight ends as well. I think Dallas Goedert should have a big game. Chiefs also bad against number 2 receivers. So I think Devontae Smith might have the better game over A.J. Brown, but we'll see. So, yeah, I mean, my pick for this, I mentioned this on Tuesday, I have the Eagles winning 23-20. I'm pretty confident that the Eagles are going to win. And even 23-20, I keep getting asked, like, oh, you think the Chiefs are going to lose a close game? Evan asked me that, actually. I'm like, I think the Eagles will be up by 2 scores in the second half, maybe in the fourth quarter. And maybe
I think they need to be.
Right. And the Chiefs maybe get a late touchdown to make this game look closer than it really is. So I think it could be 23-13, and then Chiefs score with like a minute or 2 minutes left, make it 23-20, and then just don't get the onside kick. That's how I see this game unfolding. I think the Eagles are the better team. And you look, if you go position by position, except for quarterback, the Eagles are better or equal everywhere. And
it's questionable in the place kicking game.
It's true. Jake Elliott has been bad. Yeah, as my dad is convinced that Jake Elliott is shaving points. So that's my pick is Eagles 23.
Yeah, he tried shaving his neck and he hit his elbow.
Right. All right. So what's your pick for Super Bowl 59?
I have the Eagles winning 26-17.
Nice.
So I think it's going to be barely over a 1-score game. Just because 17 is a nice number and 26 is a reasonable number with 4 field goals and 2 touchdowns. Of course, you could have an extra point missed, and that changes the schedule, the scoring dynamics for the entire way. A missed 2-point conversion or a made 2-point conversion. So 26 is not an unreasonable number, but you don't necessarily need a missed extra point in there because you can get 4 field goals. And the defenses, especially if it's Philadelphia, I have Philadelphia scoring the 26, so it would have to be the Kansas City defense that would hold into the field goals. 26-17 is 4 field goals, 2 touchdowns. The 17 is 2 touchdowns, 1 field goal. So that's how you get it. So I like Philadelphia to win. I think that, like I said before, I think that the team this year is better than the team 2 years ago, and that team 2 years ago took the Chiefs to overtime.
Yeah. Interesting that, I'm glad to hear in Eagles, first of all. Second, I think it's interesting that we both landed on the same total points, 43.
Under, yeah.
Yeah. I like the under. Two great defenses. So I think the under makes a lot of sense.
Well, I'll tell you the question that I would have, because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you probably have access to it. How many big plays did both of these teams' defenses allow as far as relative to the rest of the league?
How would you define big plays?
25 yards or more.
I will look it up.
Yeah, because that's where it comes into. You prevent big plays. You make the teams work harder. If you give up 20, if you give up a 30-yard play, that's like the team's just gained 3 first downs without having to take time off the clock to do so.
Yeah.
I do think the game lends itself to an under, largely because you got the Barkley factor. Assuming he has success, that's going to eat clock.
Yeah, and the Eagles are great at that. Evan talked about it on Tuesday that the Steelers game that the Eagles won pretty handily.
I forget what amount of possession they had. They had a huge edge in that one.
the Steelers had only 2 drives in the second half.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. The Eagles ran this 21 play drive toward the end of the game that just sucked the life out of the game, and the game ended so quickly too. That was just it's like a work of art. The Chiefs can do that too.
That's something the network doesn't want to have this weekend. They want it to be closer to a 5-hour game than a 3-hour game.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll take the lights off. Just keep the ads running.
Get those commercials. Yes.
Yeah. This game could be over by 9:30. We'll see. Although the Super Bowl halftime show, I'm sure, is going to be pretty long. How confident are you in this pick? Is it like a big play for you, medium?
No, play? It's pretty average. Only because, well, it's kind of like I said earlier, but I'll put it a little differently. If you bet on Philadelphia and Kansas City wins the game, would anyone be surprised?
No.
If you bet on Kansas City and Philadelphia won the game, would you be really surprised?
No. The only outcome in which I'd be surprised is a Chiefs blowout win over the Eagles. I would not be surprised if the Eagles blow out.
Well, keep in mind, both of these teams don't turn both of these offenses don't turn the football over.
Right.
So if it's going to be a blowout, it's going to be because one team gives up a possession with a turnover, and depending upon where that turnover is, is it on your own 30-yard line or the opponent's 30-yard line?
Mm-hmm. I could see if Mahomes is really pressured a lot in this game, I could see an interception or two. The Chiefs haven't really done that all year, but early in the year, Mahomes did throw some sketchy passes, and I'm reminded of the Tampa Bay Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll be that lopsided, but I do think there is a script for that. Like if Eagles go up 2 or 3 touchdowns, kind of like they did, they've done many times this year. I think the Chiefs could press a little bit. And this is not like a situation they're in, and they've just won so many close games this year. But most of those games were against bad teams. You could run through the schedule, like the Cincinnati's and the Atlantas and the
was Cincinnati a bad team?
Okay, well,
what? Were they 9-8 or 8-9?
Yeah, I mean,
an average team at best. Oh, how about Denver? Denver turned out to be a pretty good team, and they nearly beat the Chiefs.
I'm not.
When you talk about good teams, there are any ways of measuring. Wins obviously are the indicator that matters. It may not be the most significant, but if you're a team that let's say Denver, whatever they were, if they were 10-7, or I think it was, but they were outscored by 30 points, I'd say that's a bad team. But if they're outscoring their opponents by 30 to 50 points, I don't know what the number was for Denver, but that's a good team. You may not like them because maybe the statistics aren't pretty, but they make up for it in other ways. At some point, it's like Washington. This is a 12-5 team. Okay, they looked like a 5-12 team against the Eagles, but that was all the turnovers. But other than that, they put up, good numbers. It was a team that nobody expected. I think people sometimes don't like to admit when they have some numbers that they relied on to make this team's going to be a good team or this team's going to be a bad team, and the numbers fall into place, but the records don't.
Yeah, I was not a fan of Denver this year. I thought they had a lot of wins against bad teams. And that Cincinnati game, by the way, was sandwiched between Cincinnati losing to New England at home and Cincinnati losing to Washington at home. Now, we know that Washington is a lot better than we thought, but still, the Bengals were not healthy to start the year. I think T. Higgins was out.
They were not healthy on offense,
right,
which exposed more of their weaknesses on defense. That really never got fixed.
Exactly. Yeah, it never did. And I don't think it'll get fixed this offseason. I just don't have faith in that front office. But anyway, I think the Eagles are just more battle tested than the Chiefs. I think they've had more impressive wins this year. The only Group A.
Yeah, but it's not a matter of impressive wins. It's being able to win the close games, and that's something that Kansas City.
Yep.
You don't get any more. The only credit you get by winning by 20 as opposed to 2 is that if you end up winning by 20, you're going to lay a bigger number than if you'd won by 2.
Yeah, there is something to that. I just wonder if like beating all these bad teams, like how does that translate to battling the best team that the Chiefs will have played this year? I don't know.
Well, let's put it this way: the Chiefs or 2 of their 3 opponents made the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's a quarter of their schedule, right there. That's 4 of 17 games.
Yeah,
I mean, it really it depends how you equate schedules, and they beat good teams close, they beat bad teams close, but they beat the teams.
Yeah, they did. I just I don't know. I guess we differ on how good Denver is. Like I
Yeah.
have them like they're a Group C team for me. I just don't like them at all. But anyway, I just like regardless. I think the Eagles have
Yeah,
the
you
better.
use A B C D. I use A B C. I have them as a B, which is
Okay.
basically in the middle.
Yeah. So yeah, the C is mediocre for me. So
And the
um,
other thing to keep in mind again, and you can do it with Washington as well, though certainly it's a little bit more pronounced with Denver. They both had rookie quarterbacks, and you would expect rookie quarterbacks to show improvement as they get more comfortable and more familiar. And I think Bo Nix did that.
yeah,
Jaden Daniels, on the other hand, he came out strong and basically stayed strong, except for maybe a little midseason slump. So,
yeah. When he
when
was hurt, yeah.
Denver at the end of the season was a much better team, and even throw out that game against Kansas City, Denver at the end of the season was a much better team than they were at the beginning of the season. But that was to be it was expected that they were going to be a better team at the beginning of the season. But what people, I guess, didn't expect was that they would show the improvement, because what was their season win total? 6.5, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty low, and I like the under,
Yeah.
so that was didn't work out too well. All right, let's get to some props. I posted a bunch of props on my site, and well, we can get into some of them, but I'm kind of curious as to what you have. Like, what are your 7 favorite props this year?
Let me get over to the sheet and see if I can get to the start, because there are ones that I play every year because I cash them, not every year, but a lot. But let me see if I can I'm going to use the Westgate. I did not play any of the props. I think I did. Yeah. Well, I haven't made all my plays yet, but the Westgate does have here in Vegas. And I know you can parlay a bunch of things in offshore, but in Vegas, the varies by property. Westgate's been allowing, they've had like 45 props that you can parlay, but you can only do two prop parlays. In other words, you can't do 3 or more. I have, will Travis Kelce score a touchdown? Will Goddard score a touchdown? Kelce is plus 120. Dallas Goddard is plus 275. I somewhat refer to those kind of plays as tandem plays. It's kind of like the play that I had used many years. I'm still going to play it, but I'm not necessarily going to recommend it as I have in the past. And that's, will the first pass for each quarterback be complete or incomplete? And that was usually, the incomplete was like minus 240, and the complete, the complete was minus 240. The incomplete was like minus 190. And all you needed is for one of the two of them to be incomplete. And that worked very well for a number of years. But the last, I think, 3 or 4 Super Bowls, both passers have completed their first pass. But, mathematically, it's the old thing. If you 2 independent events, and these are 2 independent events, if the let's say the percentage of both quarterbacks is 70%, well, 0.7 times 0.7 means that the likelihood of both quarterbacks completing their first pass is 49%. Okay, which means that 0.3 times 0.3 is 9%, which says both passes will be incomplete. So there's a 49% chance that both passes will be complete, a 9% chance that both passes will be incomplete, and a 42% chance that one will be complete and the other will be incomplete. So you basically need just 1 out of 2. I call that a tandem play. You could almost make the case here, because both defenses struggle against tight ends. I just need one of the 2 tight ends to catch a touchdown. Now, of course, Kelce at plus 120. You're not going to get a lot back if Goddard doesn't get the touchdown, but you're still going to show a very small profit. On the other hand, if Kelce doesn't and Goddard does, well, that's plus 275. That's a nice profit. So I normally don't look at that as a tandem play, but because of the way the defenses match up and the tight ends have had success in both lineups, that's one of the pairs that I'm also going to be playing again this year. The other one is, will both teams have the lead in the first half? And that's priced at plus 140. And I look at that as, we don't know how this game is going to unfold. The fact that both teams don't turn the football over suggests that you'll have Philly, Kansas City, Philly, Kansas City, Philly, Kansas City, instead of Philly, Kansas City, turnover, Kansas City, Philly, Kansas City, turnover, etc. So I think plus 140 is a good one. In fact, let me see if I can find where I have the fine print on that one, because it sometimes could come into play. And that's the most important thing I'll stress tonight. Be sure to read the specificities associated with each of your props. For example, Okay, here's one. Will either team score in the final 3.5 minutes of the game? If a score occurs with exactly 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the game, the yes is a winner, and it includes overtime. Meaning that if there's 3:30 left on the clock, because it is within 3 minutes and 30 seconds of the end of the game, that is a yes. But the other one I'm looking at is, will both teams have the lead in the first half? For the yes to occur, both teams must be winning at some point in the first half. Lead is defined as having more points than your opponent. What that means is if it is impacted with a missed extra point, you don't wait until the completion of the touchdown and the extra point, Troy, is concerned. It's that you have that they're two separate events for scoring. It should have come in that way. So, it's unlikely that it could necessarily come into effect. It would take some circumstances. Let me see. There was one other one that I had. I'll find out where it is when we get to it, but it has to do with a 2-point conversion. Will there be a successful 2-point conversion? Now, at the Westgate, it clearly says a 2-point defensive conversion does not count. In other words, if they're trying for 2, they fumble it, and a guy runs it back 99 yards to get the 2 points, that does not count. It has to be a 2-point conversion by the team on offense. In other words, the team that just scored and is going for 2. So I do think both teams will have the lead in the first half of the game. I haven't decided if I'm going to do will there be a lead change in the fourth quarter, but given that it's a competitive game, and we have seen that in recent Super Bowls, especially those involving Kansas City where they've come from behind, the yes is plus 235, the no is minus 275. So you're getting almost 2.5 to 1 that there will be a lead change in the fourth quarter. Yeah, if the game's 28-10, well, look at the Patriots and then the Falcons didn't. I don't think that was a league change. That was they caught them. That was a tie. But take a look at last year. Take a look at the year 2 years ago. Take a look at Kansas City's, I think, first win over San Francisco. So that's another one that I have circled to play. I'm going to do a lot of that tomorrow. Oh, will the game be decided by exactly 3 points? Now, that's like a needle in a haystack where you pick the exact final margin. But the 3 points, the last 3 Super Bowls have all been decided by 3 points. Okay, yep. 2 by field goals and 1 by a touchdown in overtime that ended up with a 3-point win because you didn't kick the extra point, even though Kansas City had or San Francisco had a field goal. So from San Francisco by 3, it was Kansas City by 3, no extra point needed. It was the end of the game. Now the price on that is minus 450 on the no, plus 375 on the yes. Let me talk about one of the props that I do like with a player. Is I like Mahomes over 5.5 rush attempts. And I believe that was priced somewhere around 110 either way, because they usually, at least when they start and even when they make the adjustments, they normally don't adjust the VIG. They'll adjust the rushing yards, the passing yards, the receptions, etc. So I do like over 5.5. Yeah, over 5.5 is minus 110 each way. Let's see if it says. Oh, and here's another thing that you have to read. If no rushing attempts, under is the winner, and that has to do with a lot of people where it is, because there are some times where if an under or a no happens, then it's a refund. So you got to be careful because different books will treat that differently. So no, I think Mahomes is going to have some design plays. I think he's going to have some forced runs because of the Philly defense, which will be improvisational runs, what I would like to call them. And then keep in mind also for those of you who play quarterback rushing attempts, kneel downs count as a rushing attempt.
Yes. Yeah, and you could definitely lose yards on that.
Yes.
If you had an all Mahomes rushing prop in that Chiefs Texans game, then you definitely lost when he backwards the safety, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that happened earlier this year. Jalen Waddle, it was kind of like one of those Stanford band type plays.
Yeah.
Where he lost like 20 receiving yards or something because he just ran back. He caught a pass and just ran backward 20 yards. So that certainly can happen. It's unfortunate when it does, but if you have the under, then
those are fluke things that happen maybe once or twice a season.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason it happened in the Texans game because it was a playoff game.
Right. Exactly. So I like that you had Travis Kelce to catch a touchdown. I have that as well. I got it at plus 140 on DraftKings. I bet 2 other touchdown scorers. I bet Jalen Hurts first touchdown, plus 650 on DraftKings. I thought there was some value there because some other books have it at plus 550. I just thought it was a decent number.
Oh, you mean to be the first touchdown?
First touchdown plus
Well,
650.
and what'd you say the any touchdown was?
Any touchdown on Kelsey was plus 140.
No, on Hertz, or you don't have that one. You just have
I
the
didn't.
8.
I didn't bet that. I didn't bet
Okay,
that. I bet the first touchdown on Hurts. I bet anytime touchdown on Kelsey, and I
Okay.
also bet anytime touchdown on Devontae Smith.
I can see that.
This is plus 250. As I said, Chiefs bad like worse against number 2 receivers than number 1 receivers. And in 15 full games this year, he's caught 7 touchdowns. Like he's not. He's caught 8 touchdowns in 7 games. He's not seen as a big touchdown scorer, but he has as many touchdowns this year as AJ Brown, which is I think might surprise some people who don't look at the stats.
See, that's one of the reasons why I do have the play on Goddard and Kelsey for tight ends, because it could very easily be that you're not in push tush situation or tush push situations. You could get first and goal from say the 8. And then maybe it's not uncommon to take a look for the especially on second down to try to get that touchdown, and often it's the tight end that's involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The boss asked.
By the way, another reason for getting that is very often you and your Devontae Adams thing is or I'm sorry, what did you say? Smith, I think, was the one that you were talking about for the or Brown, maybe it was for the touchdown, right? That's the one you have. You said
Smith,
Brown?
Devontae Smith at plus 250.
Devontae Smith. Okay, one of the problems with that is that it could be that he breaks free, but somebody catches him and knocks him out of bounds, and that sets up one of those short touchdowns from a tight end or a Jalen Hurts or a Patrick Mahomes.
Absolutely. It's happened a lot to Barkley this year. He lost out in a lot of touchdowns because he landed the one, and then Hurts just scored. I think that's happened to Justin Jefferson a lot too. Over the years, I think Jefferson leads the league in being tackled at the 1 yard line over the past 3 years. It's just crazy. The boss asking, do you and Evan post your live bets on Twitter? I'll be posting it on Twitter and the website, so you'll know if I post something live. Some other props I have. So it's funny. I chuckled because you said you can only parlay 2 things.
That's here in Vegas, but
right.
That doesn't mean you can't in what we used to call faraway places.
Yes. So Evan and I designed this 11-leg parlay.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is.
If you hit it, does that mean you own the sports book? Does it pay that much?
Well, these are all alt lines, so you'll see what I mean. So,
okay.
Eagles plus 7.5 alt line. Jalen Hurts plus 150 passing yards, plus 150 plus passing yards. Jalen Hurts 25 plus rushing yards. Saquon Barkley 80 plus rushing yards. Devontae Smith 25 plus receiving yards.
Yeah, like the 80 plus rushing yards is probably what, like minus 260 or something.
Yeah, these are all minus 260.
Okay.
Minus 400. AJ Brown 3 plus receptions. Dallas Goedert 40 plus receiving yards. Mahomes 175 plus passing yards. Mahomes 25 plus rushing yards. Travis Kelce 40 plus receiving yards, and Xavier Worthy 25 plus receiving yards. This $100 parlay pays $1,161. So it's 11 leg.
10 to 1. So it's about 10 to 1.
11.6 to 1. So it's a lot of alt lines. All of these are minus 400 or 200, 260 or whatever. Yeah. So just taking a shot here for fun. And then I have this. This is even
the only problem with the 11 leg is that what is it, about 8 different players have to do something.
Exactly. That's why it pays so well. If you kept,
but I'm saying as opposed to 8 different propositions that might be correlated with one another. That's one of the reasons why they don't allow parlays at most places here, because if you like the Chiefs to win, you might parlay Kansas City minus the points with the over or something. If you have a lot of players who you think are going to score touchdowns, and that's what they want to avoid, is those correlated parlays, which is that's not something that you have an issue with when you're talking about parlays involving only sides and totals. When you start talking about parlays that involve props, almost every prop is related to some other prop in some sense or fashion, and the sharp people who can pick that out should have an advantage in the places where you can parlay props.
Yeah, and some of these are correlated. Like Jalen Hurts 150 plus passing yards, that correlates with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert. Mahomes passing yards correlates with Kelsey and Worthy. So I mean these are how many different players are here? There's 8 different players.
Okay.
Like I mean, they are Hertz is connected to 3 of them. Mahomes is connected to 2 of them. So I think
Well, the
I think
thing is that when you look at 8 different players, but you're basically it would look like to a great extent you may be looking at the over in the game because most of your things are you're talking about a lot of these players are over a lot of those numbers, right?
well, they're over the lowest
Adjusted
alt
numbers,
line.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
adjusted
they're
numbers, yeah,
over right. They're over the lowest alt lines.
yeah.
And the way they set it up on and FanDuel, DraftKings, etc. You can't take the alt lines on unders. Um,
Oh, okay.
which is yeah, it's weird. They kind of guide you toward the overs, which I think it's fine. Like it sucks if one of these guys gets hurt and then
Yeah,
your whole thing is ruined. I had an 11 leg parlay during the AFC NFC Championship. I hit 10 out of 11 legs. The only leg that lost was Travis Kelce
yeah.
over 40 receiving yards, and he only had like 10.
Yeah, I think only
So
2 catches.
yeah, he did nothing, and then of course they interviewed him after the game as if like he did something. I was yelling at the TV like, you didn't do anything. Like, why are they talking to you? But that was
Yeah,
funny.
sure he did. He got Taylor Swift on TV 4 times, which means $2.3 million in additional record sales or something, or streaming sales.
Yes,
Nothing
exactly.
related to football though.
Do you think he's proposing to Taylor Swift after the game?
Um,
If they win, I should say.
if they win, I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't know. You don't
I
know.
don't care, first of all, but let me put it this way, okay? If there are there, have you seen that prop somewhere?
I've heard people talk about it, but I have not seen the
Because I'd
prop.
want to see how much has been bet on that, and some people may have some inside information.
Yeah, I'm sure it's somewhere. I haven't seen it. I've
Someone
scoured
said,
many
"Hey,
books.
Travis, bet the yes, and we'll fund your divorce possibilities." I mean, your
Yeah,
fund or whatever. So, but I mean, that's half jokingly, but there are some people who would probably think along those kind of lines.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think it's kind of funny. Although you're always going to be limited on those because
Yeah.
there's going to be inside information. Like you could probably only bet $100 on them, but
Yeah.
if Travis Kelce needs the $100, then maybe he'll do it.
Yeah, but what if Taylor Swift says, "I'll give you an answer tomorrow"?
Right.
Is there a
Well,
time limit? Like the proposal has to be accepted within before 12:01 after midnight.
I think Evan told me. I think it has to be by 11:59 p.m.
Okay, there you go. They got their bases covered.
Right. So yeah, I haven't seen it, but like I said, people have talked about it. So I
Yeah.
think that's interesting. Some other parlays, other props I have. You mentioned 2 point conversion. I had that as well. I have.
Yeah.
I believe there will be a 2 point conversion attempt. That's plus 110,
Yep.
and the successful 2 point conversion is plus 232. I bet on both of those.
Yeah.
I bet will the Eagles win by 1 to 6 points, and will the Chiefs win by 1 to 6 points? Obviously, both can't win, but if one does, you're going to win because Chiefs 1 to 6 is plus 310. Eagles 1 to 6 is plus 340. I do this almost every Super Bowl, unless I think it's going to be a blowout.
Now the question with that would also be is what would happen if you'd like to see the game to go to pick 'em and then see what happens there and tease both sides to a +7, let's say, or +6.
That's interesting. I didn't think about it.
I think if you're getting, what'd you say that you can't win both, but what are you getting on both of those? Plus how much?
Plus 310 and plus 340.
So you're getting plus 210 and plus 240 because you're going to lose one.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So you're still. I think that still works out better than doing the 2-team teaser, unless you get some very favorable odds.
Yeah, I think so too. As far as individual players are concerned, Dallas Goedert is my favorite player prop for this game. His over receiving yards is 50.5. So that I bet that, and my saving parlay, which I do for every nationally televised games, I pick four regular props, no adjusted line. We've hit a fair amount of these. I think mostly in Chiefs games. I have, in addition to Dallas Goedert over 50.5, I have Saquon Barkley over 110.5 rushing, Travis Kelce over 60.5 receiving, which I'm sure you like, and then Isaiah Pacheco under 21.5 rushing yards. He hasn't had more than 6 carries since week 16. He just seems like a shell of his former self. I really don't see him doing anything in this game.
Well, week 16. Remember, they've only played 3 games since then, and one of them was week 17, and the
And then
2
and
playoff
the play.
games. Because week
Yeah.
18 was everybody sat.
Yeah, I think his carry count is like 2 6s and 2 5s. I think.
Yeah.
Or it might be 2 6s and or 1 6 and 5 3s. I can't remember exactly, but he just hasn't been involved. And so I just don't think that there's a reason that
Well,
to
the only
expect.
reason is if Hunt gets hurt, or Andy Reid is saving a bigger role for Pacheco in this game because he did miss time, and the
Mhm.
Eagles might not be expecting him to be playing a big role in this game.
Yeah, I think that if the game script goes like we think it will, I mean, you have the Eagles winning by 9. I think they'll be up by 10 at some point in the second half. This could be a Pirine game. We haven't seen a negative game script for the Chiefs yet. They were up against the Texans early, and then
Yeah.
they were up 21-7 against the Bills. Now, they did trail by 1 point eventually, but they haven't been in a negative game script yet in the playoffs. And I like
Now, are
Pirine
you
has,
thinking that perhaps that Pacheco may not be 100%?
I don't think he's healthy. He doesn't look healthy to me.
Okay.
There's just no explosion in his runs. They just Kareem Hunt looks
So,
like the better
so it's
runner.
injury. Yeah, it's injury more than anything else. You're saying that is sidelining
Yeah,
Pacheco.
I think so. I really think so. Now, it could get burned here. They have 2 weeks off. Maybe that's what he needs, but they had 2 weeks off heading into the playoffs, and it didn't really matter. I think he might just need a whole offseason,
Yeah.
and then start 2025 season. He'll be fine. But I just don't. He doesn't have like the juice anymore. I just think he's playing hurt. So I'm pretty comfortable with the under 21.5. He hasn't reached that number of yardage since he's returned. So. Or at least since they've declined, they've decreased his workload.
Right.
So yeah, I mean those are my props. I don't know if you just saw. This could be fake news, but Bagley saying Justin, Antonio Gates, Jared Allen, Eric Allen, Sterling Sharp, all elected to the Hall of Fame. Notably, no Eli Manning, which I agree with, but I'm surprised by it. I thought the voters would vote him in, even his first ballot, but he does not deserve to be. So.
See, I don't think he deserves to be a first ballot. You want to argue that he's in the Hall of Fame, maybe a couple of years, possibly. Because, and I say it every time he comes up, and I love Eli Manning and what he did for the Giants. But the Giants beat New England in those 2 Super Bowls because of the outstanding play of the defense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially that first one when the Patriots were averaging 30-something points a game all year, and they couldn't. What they end up scoring 14, I think, in that one, 17-14, I think was the final.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was under 20. I mean, that was one of the best offenses.
I mean, he made great plays, but the defense allowed him to make those great plays because it wasn't New England hadn't been up like 31 to 10 or whatever it was when the great play happened.
Yeah, yeah, it was such a great defensive performance. I think the game script could be the same here. Like the way to beat these elite quarterbacks is to pressure them with 4 and drop everyone else into covers. That's what the Giants did. They were able to pressure Brady, and that's what the Eagles could do. They have the number 2 pressure rate in the league. They can get after Mahomes, and they don't have to blitz. The Eagles blitz is the 5th lowest.
The only thing with Mahomes, he has just such great escapability.
He does, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and that's something Brady obviously did not have. I mean,
yeah, and you can't teach that. That's instinct.
Yeah,
that's instinct and experience. That's basically seeing. I'm seeing where everybody is on the field right now, and I know I can beat those 3 guys for 8 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes that way,
right? And he does it all the time.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's I
and by the way, especially on 3rd down, which is the most frustrating thing to see when you're 3rd and 8 and he keeps making 3rd down conversions. That's very disheartening for a defense.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles do that too. They convert every 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They know they have to get to X and 1, and they convert it every time with a tush push. So yeah, teams are frustrated from that as well. I mean, I'm sure the Steelers, if they're asked about that game, I'm sure they're just seething about just having the ball only twice in the second half.
Yeah,
I mean, both teams do this, and I think that kind of lends this game to be under because these teams can control the clock so well, and they can just eat the time off the clock They can have 8-minute possession, then 8-minute possession, and then
Yeah.
suddenly you're
That's
like,
where if you have
yeah,
the under, you're hoping for a close game
right,
because
and
you do that.
right, and suddenly it's halftime. You're like, wait, there have only been 5 possessions in this game. Like, what
Yep.
happened? So I think it could be that sort of way. But I also think this could be a dominating performance by the Eagles defense. I think, despite Mahomes' escapability, I mean, this could be something similar than what we saw in that Tampa Super Bowl. So I think that we'll see. It also helps, by the way, Bagley bringing up Spagnuolo. I think that it also helps that Jalen Hurts is pretty good against the blitz. Spagnuolo, pretty infamous for sending his blitzes constantly. Jalen Hurts' numbers don't really drop all that much when he's blitzed. We saw C.J. Stroud really struggle with that in the divisional round,
Yeah.
and that was the difference there. Like the Texans defense did an amazing job on the Chiefs offense, but they just couldn't move the ball because C.J. Stroud, whenever he was blitzed, he looked like deer in the headlights. He had no idea what was going on. Jalen Hurts is pretty comfortable with the blitz, and he has great weapons and great offensive line. And like I said, I think the Eagles are the better team, so I think they win.
Yeah, like I said, I can't disagree. I'm also, well, as I said earlier, I'm on the Eagles. I win either way, of course, but and I have that I'm hoping for Kansas City to score first because that'll allow me to root for the Eagles the rest of the way. But because I've got the team to score first does not win, but it doesn't really matter because that's nothing compared to what I have on the outcome of the game. But I think it's important for Philadelphia to be ahead and to not take their foot off the pedal because you don't want to leave any opening for Kansas City. And I wonder if, and I don't know, maybe somebody does who has connections with the league office, if they if they told the officials be extra careful in calling some of those questionable penalties, like roughing the passer on Mahomes or pass interference in the end zone.
Yeah, I've joked around saying that the Roger Goodell can end all conversation about the league being rigged by rigging this game for the Eagles. I think that I would love it because I have a bet on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl at 17-1. My dad is as well 15-1. So we're both.
And again, it's not a matter of quote unquote rigging the game. It's the question of when do these plays occur that seems suspicious. In other words, if there's a roughing the passer in the first quarter, okay, it's the first quarter. If there's a roughing the passer with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and and Kansas City's down by 6 and it's third down and this extends it, that's a little bit more questionable. Even though if let's say you were able to, you go back and you can play the 2 roughing the passer calls and you can see, yeah, the one in the first quarter was clearly deserved. The one in the fourth quarter, not so much.
Yeah, or if there's a fourth, I mean, this goes back to the tush pushes. If there's an obvious tush push conversion,
yeah,
and they're like, wait a second, he did not cross the line to gain, and even though replay shows that he did, they can definitely affect it that way in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, so many times I see people being like, oh, how the game's not rigged. It was, Chiefs had 6 penalties, Bills had 5 or whatever it was in the AFC Championship. But like you said, it's about when these penalties occur, when do these like weird calls happen.
Yeah.
It's all about that. And like the 2 big plays in that the refs had in the Chiefs Bills game weren't even penalties. They were the 4th down conversion and the almost the perhaps interception / drop in the red zone from Xavier Worthy. Like neither was a penalty. So.
Yeah, and I said it before. I say it every week. I sometimes say it multiple times each week. If the NFL really wants to eliminate any possibility, let every play, any penalty, called or uncalled, that would result in, I'm going to say, more than 10 yards. So it could be a half the distance, or it could be a roughing the pass or personal foul. Those plays can be reviewed. I could almost make the case that pass interference could be or should be reviewed because that could be called either way. And even holding on the offense, you could. Or face mask penalties, things that would draw significant penalties, even if they're not called, should be reviewable. Now, yeah, it could cost you timeout, but if you're down there with 4 minutes to go in the game and then there's a controversial call that went against you, you certainly want to take your opportunity to do that because the NFL, especially with its stance towards gambling and how it has changed over the past 10 years or so, has to be extra sensitive that everything is on the up and up. They don't want the NFL to become like the WWF or WWE.
No, they definitely don't. And I agree. I think every call should be reviewable. I don't know why it's not. I mean, obviously, they're called judgment calls, but it's hard to make calls
This game is so fast,
right,
and you
exactly.
got officials who are in their 40s and 50s who just can't keep up, can't be sure that you saw what you thought you saw. The point, and the people have always criticized instant replay. Oh no, it's the best thing that happened because the bottom line is you want to get the play right.
Yeah, my only criticism is that they can look at the replay and still get it wrong. Like
Yeah,
we saw in the Chiefs Bills game, but I don't know. I mean, it's better than not. It's better than not having it. What was that? It was the Rams Buccaneers, right? The NFC Championship where they didn't have that replay. They didn't have the replay
yeah,
review, and
yeah. I
they
think
they
that,
the Buccaneers got screwed over. I believe that was '99 season. So yeah, they definitely need instant replay, and I think they do need to expand it. And you're right. I mean, this game's so fast; it's hard to make judgment calls.
yeah.
You could check a replay, and like, oh, I didn't see that.
It's kind of like the bang bang plays at play at first base. Now the
exactly,
umpires, to their credit, are 90 probably 95% correct. But why shouldn't we eliminate the other 5%?
exactly, yeah. So yeah, I mean, any special plans for this game? Are you watching it with any friends
I'll
or?
probably be watching it at home because I'll probably doing some in-game stuff and
Okay.
spreading the tickets out over the countertop and that sort of stuff. To me, it's just another. I mean, to me, it's nothing just another football game. I mean, I've watched them at at venues. I've watched them at home. I like it at home. Shorter line to the refrigerator, shorter line to the bathroom.
I agree. I think
Although maybe now again, when I think about the halftime shows, and I'm not crazy about it, maybe I wouldn't mind standing on line for 25 minutes.
these I never even heard of the performer of the halftime show before it was announced, Kendrick Lamar.
No.
When they said his name, I thought it was Kendrick Perkins at first. I was like,
Oh,
the basketball player is
the basketball player, yeah.
yeah. I was like, who's Kendrick Lamar? I never heard of him. I guess
He's
I'm
a
not
pretty good
sure.
artist.
Yeah, I guess I couldn't. If you're like, well, I have this briefcase of $1 million, I'll give it to you if you can name one Kendrick Lamar song. I will not win.
Keep your million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't bother opening it to show me.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. We talked about this on Saturday, and someone was like, "Oh, he has beef with Drake." I'm like, "Who's Drake?" I don't even know that. So anyway,
Drake, wait a minute. What, you got a beef with a cupcake company?
exactly. All right. So, Andy, I know you have to go. Do you want to promote your site, thelogicalapproach.com? I'll pull it up in a second.
Yeah, we finally have this spreadsheet up that has all the. I think it's got all the final college stats. Well, actually, I'm sorry, I don't have it up. No, I do because I had to check it because there was a typo in the link. So that's up there at thelogicalapproach.com. Don't have much in the way of basketball up there right now. Just taking some more time off to do other things and get caught up in things that unavoidably were delayed during the latter part of 2024. But people up there, and if they have some information or want some information about football next year, they can get in touch with me, in June.
Okay. Definitely check out thelogicalapproach.com. Andy has this great newsletter. Highly recommend it. There's so much info on there. So
Did you see the one this week?
I did. Yeah.
The 22-pager?
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is great. I did.
Right.
I've read through like half of it. I'm not even.
Yeah, and then you fell asleep, so you still got a nice half to look forward to.
I did not fall asleep. It's just like, we had a snowstorm here. My kids were home. I just had no time today.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Just really appreciate it. And let's go Eagles because we're both on.
Yeah, so. We'll stay in touch in the off season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good night. All right, we're joined.
Okay, take care, guys.
All right, bye. All right, Kenny's on. Smooth transition there. You're on mute. Not so smooth. You're still on mute. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Okay, apparently I don't know how to work a microphone. 10 years of podcasting apparently hasn't taught me nothing. But, I feel like I'm in the wake of greatness with with Andy here. I mean, I'm not worthy, bro.
Yeah, it's a double show tonight. I think the last time we did a double show was the election night when we had all sorts of craziness during the election.
Like a quadruple show.
Yeah, seriously, that was so long. I had to in between, when Evan came on, I'm like, Evan, please talk for a minute or two. I have to go to the bathroom. I've been sitting here for 3 hours. But yeah, two shows in one day. You suppose. Well, we didn't have a show last night, so Kenny, yeah, it's great to have you on. So how have you been? What's going on?
Oh, I just got back from I was at a work conference in San Diego. So my time the first night I flew out. Oh, thank you, Cassandra. Thank you. My whole time change. I was a disaster. It's only 3 hours, but I don't know why it threw me off. I got up like super early Monday morning, like at 3 a.m. and then flew out. Had like a 5 a.m. 5:30 flight Monday morning. Landed at San Diego at like 10 a.m. But like I had meetings till like late Monday night, so I was just totally exhausted. And I'm like, it's like 7 o'clock and I'm falling asleep. I'm like, oh, sorry guys, or I having like an important anyway. But then I got home and I went to bed at 6 p.m. local time here in Florida, and I just woke up about 10 minutes ago, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah. I can't wait for it to discuss this with you, DraftKings stuff. So hopefully we take down $1 million, or someone on here takes down $1 million. That'd be great.
Side note: my wife mocked me for drinking chocolate milk. I don't know why. She says it's childish. What does she know? That's
ridiculous. I'm sorry. You're lucky I'm not there. It'll be nasty words spoken about.
She would deserve it.
It's blasphemous. I love chocolate milk. It's great. Sometimes I get at Wawa. It's awesome. Sometimes
I drink milk, like almond milk, regular milk, whole milk, whatever. I drink whatever milk we have in the house. I'll drink it pretty regularly as just like with like dinner. So tonight at dinner, I had a glass of 1% milk that my daughter drinks. We have whole milk for the baby, or not the baby, our son, and then 1% for him, and then my wife drinks skim milk, and then we also have almond milk because I don't know why we. So anyway, I had a glass of 1% tonight at dinner. My wife's like, "What are you, a child?" I was like, "Actually, yes, I am."
Now wait, did you make this chocolate milk or did you buy it?
No, this was good old Stir In by Kenny Ortiz.
Yeah, I hate to brag. I think I'm the best chocolate milk maker in the world. I think.
What makes you a better? I mean, you squeeze it in, you stir it. It's not that hard.
It's perfect. You have to have it's perfect proportions for milk to chocolate. I think I do it like perfectly. I think like I don't know. It's like a league leader of best chocolate milk. I think.
I've never heard anyone brag about their ability to make chocolate milk. This is the first.
I don't know. I think I'm the best, honestly, because I don't know. I've had everyone else's. I think mine's best. And by the way, my son thinks mine's best too. So he is the most important opinion. Did you put chocolate milk in your Cocoa Pops? No, I probably should have. One time I was just like I was so distracted. I put orange juice in my Fruit Loops. And I was like,
that's very distracted. That's next level distracted.
Yeah, I was not having a good day. It was, if you read my first book, it was when my girlfriend's dad called me and yelled at me. The girl from Colorado. No, I was just distracted, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna wait these Fruit Loops. So I tried to eat it. It was so disgusting. It's horrible. Anyway, enough of that about that. Let's. Before we get to the DraftKings stuff, I mean, I have to have your opinion on this game, given that you're an Eagles fan. I know you're anti-gambling, but what are your thoughts on the game? If you were a gambling man, where would you put your money?
I don't have a good beat on this game. It's because I'm just emotionally attached. So I'm not. Nothing I'm giving you is objective here. This is totally irrational. Totally subjective. So going into 2017, or going into the 2017 Super Bowl, I guess technically February 2018 Super Bowl, Eagles Patriots. I gave the Eagles a 10% chance to win that game. I was not confident they were going to win. It was Tom Brady. We had Nick Foles. I didn't realize at the time Nick Foles is the greatest quarterback of all time. I learned that during the course of that game, and so I was not confident. But they ended up winning. One of the greatest moments of my adult life. I shared that with you. It was fantastic. You were there with me. Okay. Yep. In frigid Minnesota watching that game. 2 years ago, I was all kinds of confident. I was like 80% confident the Eagles were going to win. I actually thought there was a legitimate chance they would blow the Chiefs out. I was wrong, obviously. A lot of things I couldn't have anticipated. The Eagles couldn't run the ball at all. The defense fell apart. The field was a mess. Jonathan Gannon had his head up his rear end. Anyway, all the above. So although Jalen Hurts played the greatest game of his career, I mean, still, it's the greatest game he ever played. Anyway, all that to say, I can't. I don't know. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not the 20% of 2017. Certainly not anywhere 80%. I think the line is right. I think it opened, like a Hard Rock here in Florida. It's kind of the most popular app a lot of people use here. It opened +2, Eagles +2 here.
Mhm.
It quickly moved to 1.5, and it has stayed there. So it's pretty much been flat, 1.5, pretty much most places, right?
It's -1 in most sports books right now.
Oh, okay. And so, our Eagles +1.
Yeah, Eagles +1.
And so well, it's one. It's 1.5 at Hard Rock right this moment. So, and for what that's worth. I think that's about right. I think 1.5 is probably about right. I would give a slight edge to the Chiefs.
Wow.
I think I think the Eagles are the better team, top to bottom. I think most talent. I think they're the most. I think the best unit of the 4 major units is the Eagles defense, in my opinion. Of all 4 units on the field on Sunday, I think the Eagles defense is the best unit. I think there's some good matchups. I think the Eagles match up well against the Chiefs in some ways. But Patrick Mahomes, man, it's hard to bet against him, And so I think it's pretty close to 50-50 in my mind. And so I think you make a case either way. I mean, if it's 50-50, then you just take the points, I guess, on a neutral field. You just take the 1.5, and it's probably a better bet. But if I were a betting man in my old days, this wouldn't be more than a 1 or 2 unit bet in my mind. I wouldn't feel real confident.
Interesting. By the way, did you know that the better quarterback in the Super Bowl dating back to 2000 is 7-13 against the spread? So that's that includes although I don't know, maybe you argue that Nick Foles is better than Tom Brady, but I included Tom Brady being better.
According to the public consensus, supposedly Tom Brady's better.
Yeah, supposedly, sure. No, I think that's the quarterback is the only position in which I already said this with Andy. I think quarterback's the only position where the Chiefs are better than the Eagles. I think everywhere else Philadelphia is equal or better. It's fun. It's interesting you said you think the line's about right. I actually would have made the Eagles a favorite -1.5. Yeah. So and 2 of the 3 people who have been on the show this week have picked the Eagles to win. I picked the Eagles to win 23-20. Andy picked the Eagles to win 26-17. And Evan was on the Chiefs. He picked the Chiefs to win 27-24. So a 3-point Eagles win, 3-point Chiefs win, and a 9-point Eagles win. What's your final score prediction for this game?
I anticipate. I think it will be a moderately high scoring game. I think mid-20s is probably right. I think the high scoring game of 2 years ago, the 38-35 game, I think a lot of that had to do with the field. I don't think people realize how bad both defenses struggled to slide all over the place. Neither defense could get good pressure on the quarterback, sliding all over the place. I do think it affected the Eagles slightly more than the Chiefs because of the Eagles' style of play on defense. Both teams had to play on the same field, so it affected both of them. But I did think the Eagles' style was impeded a little more, and I think that led to the offenses be able to get more going. And so, I don't anticipate that. I think these teams are different in some ways than 2 years ago. I think they're very comparable to they were a year ago in some ways, though, when they played. That was right before the Eagles' defense kind of collapsed. Mid-season last year, the Eagles, they barely beat the Chiefs on a MVS dropped that long pass that probably would have sealed the game for the Chiefs. I anticipate a similar type game, and so I think a 23-20 type game is probably the type of score. Was that Andy's prediction, or was that whose prediction was that?
That was mine. 23-20.
I think that's probably. My guesstimate is 23-21 might be Chiefs is my guess, but I certainly hope. I obviously will be rooting for for a different result.
My plan is to bet everyone's exact score. Like some very small bets, like $10, you know. But they've like super high odds, like 23-20 pays out 70 to 1. So I might, given that's my prediction, I'm gonna like put like $20 on to win $1,400 on it.
Yeah,
just for fun. So yeah,
well, I'll say 23-21. So give me another bet.
But you're on Chiefs. You're 23-21 Chiefs.
Oh, that's right.
Right. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put $10 on everyone else's correct predicted score to see if I can win any money on it. So I'll do that on Saturday. We have to get Tom's. Tom is the last man standing here to get his predicted score. All right. Have you? Let's shift gears to the DraftKings stuff. Have you made any lineups?
I haven't inserted any, but I've been messing with my cruncher, and I had a beer with a young man in San Diego who we discussed the possibility of making a cruncher. But anyway, I'll get to that another day. So
okay, glad to hear it.
There's a developer guy I met in San Diego. Anyway,
interesting.
By the way, I used to live in San Diego many moons ago, 2005, 2006. Mm-hmm. Where I used to live was like brand new and nice. It's like dumpy now.
Really?
Like y'all haven't painted these buildings into like. There's other parts of the city that are nice and new, but like a big chunk of the city just feels like dumpy. I'm just like, I used to live near where the Charger Stadium was, Qualcomm Stadium, and apparently the stadium is just sort of like barely used. San Diego State plays there, but like there's really not much that goes on down that way now, and not a lot of business. It's kind of dumpy. Like kind of, I guess the Chargers left, and it kind of left a void in the local economy. So anyway. Bummer.
Who knew that the Chargers would have such an impact on San Diego, given that like they struggled to sell out all the time?
Yeah, it's just for whatever reason, I don't know. I wonder if it's just there's no investment in that part of the town, where I happen to have lived. But
it's a shame that San Diego's in California. I would love to live in San Diego, but it's in California. You can't. It's just way too expensive.
It's communist. So
exactly. Awful. I wish they would secede. I wish the northern part would secede like they want to. I wish San Diego would secede. Just leave California with, LA, San Francisco, Oakland. Like they can have that rubbish in the middle. But anyway, so I thought that we could go over all the players, talk about how much we like them. It's only one game. Like there's only so much we can talk about. So what I did on my site was I went through all the players, like not the $200 scrubs who don't play, but like all viable players that you can put in your lineup. And I gave them a rating of like, X out of 10, whereas like, the 10 out of 10, I'm like, I want this guy in every lineup. Like 0 out of 10, I'm like, I'm not touching this guy at all, like no matter what. And if I made 150 lineups, I'd have them 0. So I think we could run down this list if you want, and then we can make some lineups. So in order of pricing, Saquon Barkley, this is not captain pricing. This is flex. Saquon Barkley's $12,000. I think that he's my only 10 out of 10. If I'm making 150 lineups, I want him in 150. I don't want to leave any lineups Barkley. Obviously, there could be a scenario where the winning lineup doesn't have Barkley in it. Like, if he gets hurt or something, I feel like that's like the only way he doesn't get there. This is a great matchup for him. Andy was just pointing out that I've been talking about how much the Chiefs have struggled in the playoffs against the run. Andy pointed out that this goes further back than that. Like if you look at how they played the Steelers in week 17, they allowed 148 rushing yards to Jalen Warren and Najee Harris combined. So they've really been bad against the run lately, and Barkley's the best player in the league. I think he's going to have a massive game. I actually parlayed Barkley to get 110 yards and 2 touchdowns because like I wanted to bet him to win MVP, but his odds are like plus 260. They're like horrible.
Yeah, if you value.
Yeah, if you parlay 110 plus rushing yards and two plus touchdowns, it comes out to like plus 480 or something. And so I thought that was just smarter because if Barkley does that, he's going to win MVP. And like I can't see like Barkley winning MVP if he gets like 100 and a touchdown. So and also like if Barkley has this massive game and the Chiefs come back and win in a shootout, you can still win your bet. So that's what I did. But yeah, Barkley is my favorite play. I want him in every lineup. I want to try to make lineups with him as captain, even though it's tough, 18,000. So obviously I assume you're going to be Barkley. If he comes in like projected 85% owner, you're going to be over or under.
Oh, 100% owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. It's like there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe there's a scenario in which he doesn't like. I think there's no scenario under which Barkley doesn't rack up a ton of yards. There are scenarios where he doesn't score touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
There's no scenario under which he doesn't rack up some combination of rushing and receiving yards. We kind of forgot. I went back and watched a bunch of Barkley, highlights from earlier in the year. Yeah. I forgot how much they used him in the pass game earlier in the season, and kind of largely went away from that down the stretch. He was not highly targeted in the passing game. I didn't really have to, but early in the season he was. His first touchdown of the season was a receiving touchdown, and he had almost as much receiving yards and targets as he did touches, or how the percentage of his overall touches was significantly was targets and catches in the first couple of games of the year. After the bye week, that pretty much all changed. They just never mind, we're not going to throw the ball this year. It's kind of basically after week 4, they just decided we're going to just run the ball like crazy. They still obviously threw some, but and so it was interesting. I wonder if they have to unleash that at some point in this game. If the Chiefs are just going to go all out to stop the run, which they're going to have to creep. They're going to have to put 8 men in the box to stop Barkley. So I see no scenario in which Barkley is not in the winning lineup. It just feels highly unlikely. And so, if it's projected to be 85, let me see, site I'm using right now, projection ownership is, what's projected ownership is 92.5. So
still too low.
So if projected ownership is 92.5%, I want to be over that.
Yeah, I do too. If you're going to be under, you could be like 50% even, just to 50, 60%. You can still have a lot of Barkley if you're doing a lot of lineups, I should say. If you're doing like one single entry or 3 max, I don't see how Barkley's not in your lineup. It's good to be contrarian, but don't be too contrarian. I think that's at that point you're just predicting injuries. So if for some reason you're like, I'm not going to have Barkley in my lineup, then have Gainwell in your lineup instead, because if Barkley goes down, Gainwell is obviously going to be the main beneficiary of that. All right, Jalen Hurts next, 10,400. He's an 8 out of 10 for me. He's a major threat to score touchdowns. He's kind of the main foil to Barkley because he can take away those 1-yard runs with the tush push. So anytime you have Barkley, you're frustrated, but you can play both. Usually you don't want to play quarterback or running back in the same lineup because they cannibalize each other. But this is those 2 guys are the main source of all the Eagles offense. So I like Hurts a lot. I like him better than Mahomes. Where are you standing on Hurts?
Yeah. He's I think rightly priced at 10,400. I think there's a lot of people expecting. I don't think you're going to try to throw the ball over the field. I don't expect Hurts to throw a bunch in this game necessarily, as some people are sort of predicting. I think you're going to have to throw more than they've done in the past couple weeks. But the difference here is the tush push. That's at the end of the day. In the last Super Bowl, second down from inside the 2, and they just tush pushed it all the way into the end zone multiple times. Tush pushed in the 2-point conversion. I think at the end of the day, they trust that play more than anything, and so I think playing Hurts and Barkley actually is okay. In 150, what's the projected ownership? Is 68.1 is the projected ownership at the site that I'm using. Do you want to be over that or under that? What do you think?
I think I'd rather be over. I think I probably, you know what, this rating, I think you could just multiply it by 10, and that's what my projected, that's what my personal ownership would be. So if I had 150 lineups, I'd probably have 80% Hurts.
Got it. The 68.1% is projected ownership. I think it's about right. That's about, and I probably want to be over, but I don't think I want maybe a little under you. I think 70, 75% is probably where I'll end up, is my guess. again, I haven't crunched lineups real tight yet, so it's possible that you get in there and I'm like, oh, that just doesn't make sense. Actually, I'm leaving too much money on the table, or my lineups are not unique enough. So it's possible that I'll end up coming off of that. But I think I could see myself being in the 75% range on Hurts.
Josh, like Cassandra and Bagley saying Josh Allen won MVP. I don't watch the NFL awards ceremony. I just wait to see who wins. Usually, don't they do this on Saturday? I thought they did this on Saturday. It's kind of confused by that, but I guess they changed it. Like Saturday is usually like a bad day for that because there's a lot of Super Bowl parties going on. But I was gonna publish my awards tomorrow. And Josh Allen was my MVP as well. So you guys will be able to see that. Okay, let's get to the other.
Saquon Barkley is my MVP.
So I have on the site I have MVP and I have Best Player award. Barkley wins Best Player, but I have trouble giving MVP to a running back because if you take Barkley off the Eagles and replace him with a bad running back, you get the Eagles from 2 years ago, who like still went to the Super Bowl. Barkley takes it to another level, but I like the Eagles are still a great team without him. They still have the number one defense, still have a great passing attack, still have a great offensive line. He's not MVP for that reason, but he's the best player in the league. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think they're in the Super Bowl without Barkley this year. I think this team is different enough from 2 years ago. They're definitely stronger in some ways, weaker in others. So
interesting. I still think they could be in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't give them as much of a chance if they didn't have Barkley, but so I'd probably pick the Chiefs to win at that point. But I think he puts them over the top. They didn't have anyone of his caliber 2 years ago.
They had no run. I'm going back and watched a little bit of that game, and just they had no running game. I saw that they totally abandoned the run, late in the second quarter because they couldn't move the ball at all on the ground. They just, they ran like 4 times in the second half, other than Hurts's tush pushes. They were up and they just abandoned the running game.
Yeah, the Chiefs historically have been bad against the run, and they couldn't take advantage of it. I mean that as well as the bad field surface that you mentioned. And the Chiefs had the advantage there because they brought different cleats because they played on that surface in week 1, and they complain about the field being slippery. I talked about this in Andy as well. They at least knew what was going to happen, whereas the Eagles didn't, and that gave the Chiefs just a big advantage, especially with the pass rush because like the Eagles pass rush was like slipping as if like they're on ice skates or something. It was really bad. Anyway, we have Patrick Mahomes at 10,000. He's a 7 out of 10 for me. As I said, I like Hurts better than Mahomes. I like Mahomes too. I think this, like I said, I think this can be a negative game script, which means Mahomes is going to throw more. I think Mahomes is going to have more passing yards than Hurts. And as Andy predicted, I agree. I think Mahomes could be the leading rusher on the Chiefs because this pass rush could force him out of the pocket. And I don't think the Chiefs will be able to run on the Eagles. So Mahomes looks great. In 3 of his last 4 games, he's had 23 DK points or more. So yeah, I 7 out of 10 for me. I'd rather play Hurts, but what do you think about Mahomes?
Yeah, I think 7 out of 10 is about right. His projected ownership on the site I'm using right now is 66.8%. Okay. Although his captain percentage seems to be much higher than Hurts and Barkley. He's got the highest percentage of captain. He is he got actually Barkley is the highest. Sorry. Barkley's captain 32.5% projected to be captain in lineups, and Mahomes is 19.5. Hurts is 11%. That feels low. I would have expected.
Maybe Hurts is the right captain then, at least in terms of ownership.
Yeah. By the way, I'm using a website that you probably would not want me to promote on the for various reasons. Anyway,
what do they start? What are their initials?
It's a S something. I wouldn't want to give any props to this website. So,
do I beef with them, or is it?
Yeah, you got beef with them. Yeah, you got beef with them.
Oh, who is it? Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, we'll see. There might be lawsuits forthcoming. Anyway, because
some people might know what we're talking about.
they owe me a lot of money and they're not paying it. So we'll I'll talk about that maybe another time. Anyway, so you like, do you like Mahomes? You said his ownership is projected to be 66%. I would be at like 70, so
Yeah,
like slightly
I think
over.
that ownership feels about right. But whether or not, I think more. I think like I typically lean toward not having a quarterback as a captain in a showdown slate. That's my typical. Obviously, a quarterback can. I mean, quarterback as captain certainly can pay off in a lot of scenarios, but
Yeah.
I tend to be contrarian on that. So my go-to would be Saquon, but if he's going to be the most owned captain, that makes me want to go back toward Mahomes or Hurts actually as captain. So I think my default would ordinarily be not to have Mahomes or Hurts as captain, but I'm rethinking that.
Yeah, I agree that I don't like to play quarterback as captain for the most part. Now there are extenuating circumstances, like if the quarterback is cheap or something, then you can do it. I think you can make an exception for mobile quarterbacks because, as you say, they're like captain doesn't work quite well for quarterbacks because the quarterback throws a touchdown, there's 4 points for him and 6 points for the receiver. And the receiver is going to earn more points on his receiving yardage than the quarterback or his passing yards. So it makes sense to put the receiver as captain or the running back if you think it's going to be a run-heavy game. But I think a rushing quarterback makes so much more sense because if they run in a score, then no receiver is getting any points.
Right.
So that's why I like Jalen Hurts more of a captain than Mahomes. I'm kind of surprised that Mahomes is 19% captaincy and then Hurts is only 11%. So I think Hurts is a much stronger play captain than Mahomes. Whereas maybe in flex, Mahomes is better because I think his floor might be a little bit higher.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, next player is AJ Brown, 9,600. I love AJ Brown as a player. I'm not a fan of him in this slate. I have him as a 5 out of 10. The Chiefs are really good against number one receivers. They tend to double team these guys. And so they could treat Brown with some bracket coverage, and he just might not get there. I think he's gonna have like a fairly mediocre game, like maybe like 4 catches, 60 yards or something. So he's a 5 out of 10 for me. How do you have AJ Brown rated?
I was listening to Greg Cosell, NFL Films. I've got a sneeze. I got a sneeze coming. So
Okay.
All right, there it is. It's gone. All right.
Nice mute button catch.
Yeah, I use that mute button technique there. I listened to Greg Cosell Inside the NFL Films podcast, and he said the Chiefs most weeks whenever there's been a dominant number one receiver, and obviously not every team has one clear guy like that, but whenever there's been a guy like that this year, they almost never man him up with their best cornerback, which is McDuffie, right? Mm-hmm. And so usually they'll put McDuffie, which is kind of the old Patriots way of doing it. They'll put McDuffie on the second best receiver when there's a quality second receiver, man him up, and then double coverage bracket. And so that's exactly how they played AJ Brown 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. But if you remember, he had that big bomb 50-yard touchdown catch in between two guys. So now I think the Eagles passing game 2 years ago was just very different than it's been this year. So I don't expect that. I will say though, in 2022, AJ Brown had a very mediocre playoff run in the first 2 games. I mean, he didn't crack 50 yards, didn't score a touchdown. Was barely a part of the offense in their 2 playoff games, the Giants and the Niners, and then had a massive Super Bowl game. Had a huge game in the Super Bowl. So maybe that's a repeat. So yeah, at this number, I probably won't get to him a lot, and I certainly wouldn't make him a captain. I think the probability of him being the winning captain feels really low to me. So I think your rating's probably right. Maybe I'm a little higher than you. Maybe I would say a 6 out of 10. So maybe I'll put him a little bit high, but I certainly wouldn't have him in the captain slide, or at least it's not likely.
Okay. All right. Travis Kelce is next. He's $9,000. I love Travis Kelce here, both as a captain and flex. If the Eagles have the number one defense in the NFL, but if they have one weakness, it's against tight ends. Against the Rams, we saw Tyler Higbee have a big game, and even Colby Parkinson caught a touchdown. And the NFC Championship, Zach Ertz had a big game. I think Kelsey could as well. Kelsey did nothing against the Bills, so I think he might rebound. And also, if you're a conspiracy theorist, the NFL is rigging these games. They could have Kelsey win MVP and then propose to Taylor Swift, and what I assume is going to be a very, very loving marriage. I'm sure they're going to be together forever. So,
So cynical. I love it.
what do you mean? I said they'd be together forever. What are you talking about? It's definitely true love. I've never seen anything like it since Romeo and Juliet. So, what are your thoughts on Kelsey here?
I think Kelsey's. I think he's a fantastic play, actually. The Eagles give up a lot of soft coverage to the tight ends in the middle. That's by design. I'm there, like it's the Vic Fangio. It's too deep zone, but it's matchup coverage in the middle of the field. So it's not like, it's not true cover two. It's not Tampa two. It's still a little variation that Fangio uses. And by design, they basically just say, yeah, we're going to let you have that in the middle of the field. And so I think I saw a 6.5 on Hard Rock, at least. I think the over under for catches on Travis Kelce is 6.5. I'd take the over on that all day. And so I think I'm with you. What did you rate him? I was going to say like a 7 out of 10. What did you rate him?
8 out of 10 for me.
8 out of 10. Okay. So yeah, I think he's a great guy. I think absolutely. We've seen that, and we've also just seen with the Chiefs like all year them just do the bare minimum. We saw this with them last year. We saw this to some extent in 2022. Like do the bare minimum to get into the playoffs, to make it here, and then turn it up. And we've seen that with Travis Kelce. He's not the same player he was, 2 years ago, but the combination of their attitude, their style, with how it matches up against the Fangio defense, I think I can easily see Kelce getting, 10 catches at 90 yards in this game, like pretty easily, actually.
Yeah. I think he's going to have a big game. I bet him to win MVP at 16-1, just in case it is rigged. But anyway, we'll see. Xavier Worthy's next $8,000. This is a 4 out of 10 for me. He had a big game in the AFC Championship, so I'm kind of curious to hear what his ownership is. I think that big game might pump up his ownership, and I think that would be a big mistake because the Eagles have a great secondary. He's going to have some catches. He could get there in a weird script. I don't hate him 4 out of 10. Like I would if I made 10 lineups, I'd play him 4 times. So I'm not gonna run away from him, but still, I'm not like rushing to play him either. So what do you think about Worthy?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty low on him in this game. I don't think I think his style. If the Eagles are now the Eagles, they've played very little man coverage this year. They played quite a bit of man coverage against the Redskins 2 weeks ago. So, which was sort of surprising. They almost never played man coverage. If they man up, and if they have Quinyon Mitchell on Xavier Worthy, Mitchell's your best cornerback. I don't think people realize that. I think maybe some people are starting to realize that. I think Darius Slay is still viewed as the best cornerback on the team, but he really it's Q at this point. And so if they put Quinyon Mitchell on Xavier Worthy, I think that pretty much shuts Worthy out of the game. And if they play zone, kind of typical matchup zone, Worthy may get a bunch of quick passes, which is what kind of they've been doing with him, but he's not gonna break the open field. He's not gonna get a lot of space. He's not gonna have any big plays down the field. So Hollywood Brown's the one I'm nervous about. We'll get to in a minute, I guess. But I think Worthy's a low play for me. I think I'd say a 2 out of 10 maybe. And his projected ownership on this site is 33.3, which feels very high.
Yeah, maybe I should be low in 4 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10. 8,000 is a lot. He's pretty expensive. If he were like 6,500 or 7, I think I'd be more interested. But speaking of 7,000 receivers, Devontae Smith, 7,400. I like Smith more than AJ Brown. Given the price disparity. Smith is, the Chiefs are worse against number 2 receivers than number 1 receivers. And so I like Smith here. Also, I was surprised to see this. I just didn't know. Smith and AJ Brown had the same number of touchdown catches this year. Both have 8 touchdowns. So Smith could get there. I like him to score a touchdown. I have him as anytime touchdown score. I think at plus 250. So he's a 6 out of 10 for me. How do you like Smith?
Yeah, if if the Chiefs do what Greg Cosell thinks they're going to do, in all likelihood, is man him up with McDuffie, that makes me not confident in Devontae Smith. I think the Eagles will just will mostly steer clear of that and work the middle of the field. And so, yeah, I think Devontae Smith has not been – I'm not sure he's been right. His hamstring – he was listed on the injury report this week with the hamstring.
Yeah.
He's not been right this playoff run. Neither has A.J. Brown. I mean, really, Dallas Goedert has been their best receiver by a pretty significant margin in this playoff run so far. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to make of Smith. Of course, now that I say that, he'll score 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I'm not confident here at 7,400. I think it's priced rightly. Maybe I even think it should be like he should be like the 8,000 and worthy to 7,400. Like there's actually some good value here, but I'm still a little nervous based on how the Eagles might play this, and so I think it's going to be Goddard Barkley heavy, and I think it matches up well against the Chiefs. So I'm. What did you say? You said you Smith. What was your rating? 5 out of 10.
So he's a 6 out of 10, but you're right about the hamstring. He's limited twice this week. So if he's limited again on Friday, then I might steer clear. If he's full on Friday, then I would like him at 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Also, just to note, there's been a bug, a pretty significant flu bug apparently going on amongst the Eagles. Jalen Carter was vomiting at practice yesterday, and several players in the team. Vic Fangio himself actually got it, so kind of someone caught the flu, and great. I just love that. It's wonderful. 3 days before the Super Bowl, our best defensive player just apparently. Anyway, Devontae Smith was rumored to be one of the guys that wasn't confirmed. The only player that's been confirmed to definitely have it was Jalen Carter.
Yeah, on the injury report, I only see Carter with illness. I don't see anyone else. So it didn't go on my radar, but
yeah. Apparently, Quinyon Mitchell had it early in the week. Nolan Smith had it earlier in the week. He is patient zero. It sounds like it was Nolan Smith. So maybe Nolan Smith's daughter got it from a preschool or something. That's where my kids get sick from other kids.
Oh my god. Yeah, but as soon as we started my son in a daycare / preschool, it was the end. I was sick every 2-3 weeks. I went like 7 years without getting sick, and like as soon as we had kids, I got sick like every 3 weeks.
I mean, the last month. I mean, like the last month, both of my kids have been just terribly sick.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jalen Carter's got whatever my kids got.
I think I was patient zero. I think I had it first. But you're in Florida, but still, it can travel. I don't know. Anyway, Kareem Hunt 6,400. The only reason I think you could play him is because he gets the goal line carries, and so he could rush in a touchdown or two and get there. But the Eagles have the number 1 rush defense, so I don't think he's going to get that many yards. I have him as 4 out of 10, but I think it should probably be like 3 out of 10. So what do you think about Hunt?
His projected ownership is 20.4 on this site, so I would imagine. Yeah, I think someone's going to get some carries in that game. I think there's going to be some volume in that. And particularly if they're leading in any way, I think there'll be some volume there. I think you did mention it. I do think it's possible that that Mahomes ends up being the leading rusher of this team. And so, yeah, maybe I'm a little higher on Hunt than you are, mostly because Isaiah Pacheco has done nothing in these playoffs and has not looked good.
Yeah.
He's clearly not 100%, clearly not rebounded from the injury. And so I would imagine they probably won't. I think Hunt will get the bulk of the carries on the ground there for them. So I think he's worth playing at 6,400. I think there's a decent chance for him to crack 50 yards and score a touchdown. And so I think, I may even say like a 4 out of 10.
Okay. That's why I'm at 4 out of 10. So, all right. Dallas Goedert, 5,800. This is my top guy outside of Saquon Barkley. I have his 9 out of 10. I think he's going to have a big game. I bet him over 50.5 receiving yards. Kansas City's been the worst team against tight ends this year. Dating back to week 1, Isaiah Likely had a huge game against them. So, and he's only 5,800 as opposed to Kelsey, who's 9,000. So just, I think Goddard is the best value on the entire slate. So what do you think about Goddard?
Yeah, I'm surprised we're lockstep there. I think Goddard is a fantastic play. So his ownership is his projected ownership is pretty low, 33.9. It just doesn't seem right.
Wow. Okay.
Like maybe this website doesn't know what they're talking about. They just am I reading that right? I'm shocked.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah, I can't even hardly believe it. I'm like, am I reading this properly? But yeah, it looks like that's what they're saying. That's their projected ownership. So I'll be all over Goddard. And yeah, he's been their best receiver. They have made a considerable effort to get him involved in the game plan, which they did not do throughout the course of the season before his injury. Goddard was not really a big part of the offense. Mm-hmm. It was kind of goofy. It kind of took him a while to kind of figure it out. Then he got hurt. Then just as they were figuring it out, he got hurt and then missed several games. So it just kind of was goofy. But then he came back and he was the best player against the Green Bay Packers and was really good against the Rams and highly involved against the Redskins. And so I see no reason for that not to continue. In this, I think this matchup is great. Yeah, I'm with you. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Yeah, in that range.
Okay. All right, next player is Marquise Brown. You mentioned him earlier, so I'm kind of curious about this one because I don't like him very much. I think that he's yet to hit any double-digit DK points as the Chief. Now maybe he'll get there, but I just think that this Eagles secondary is just too good to allow too many big plays. I have him as 4 out of 10, so it's not like I hate him or anything. I wouldn't avoid him. I think I've made 3 or 4 lineups so far, and I think I have him in one of my lineups. So I'm willing to play him, but I don't like him very much. But maybe you can sell me on him. So what do you think about Brown?
Yeah, this is maybe the first play where we're going to diverge significantly. I actually love him in this game from a DK perspective for 2 reasons. One, I mean he was injured, obviously missed most of the year, and so he was obviously not involved in the offense. But as he's come back, he's looked good. Not 100%, not the same player he was a couple of years ago, but he's looked good. They look like they know how to get him in space. And the one thing he's good at, we've actually seen the Eagles give up some big plays too in the last few weeks of the season and in the playoffs. Kind of those deep dig routes and kind of deep crossing patterns. We've seen that. We saw Terry McLaurin score on a play like that. We saw Puka Nacua get a big play like that in the middle of the field. We saw the Packers actually score a couple big plays on deep post, deep crossing routes. Obviously, every one of the receivers seemed to get hurt in that game, so it didn't matter down the stretch in that game. But we saw, I mean, the Redskins did it with Terry McLaurin both in the regular season and in the playoffs. And so there is something that they seem to be figuring out with Hollywood Brown over the last few weeks. The Chiefs, that is, figuring out what to do with Brown. That I think they're going to see the tape and see, hey, I think the Eagles, in moments where they are playing in high leverage moments, in moments where they're blitzing or they're putting more pressure, there's a potential for big plays down the middle of the field. So Hollywood Brown has kind of done that. It would not surprise me if he has 1 or 2 big plays, down the middle of the field, deep dig, deep crossing route, something like that. And so I think it's more likely than not that he at least 1 big play, if not maybe 2. And if the Eagles are really shutting down Xavier Worthy, then I could see Hollywood Brown being the guy that they, are able to to go to. At 5,400, I think he's the much better priced. Like the difference between him and Worthy, 8,000 at 5,400 seems ridiculous to me. That's a huge gap. So
yeah, I agree.
I just think there's some value there. So his projected ownership at 30.5, I'd probably want to be double that.
30.5 is kind of low, and I'm 4 out of 10, so I guess I'd be over. So again, I don't love him, but you make good points. I think maybe he should be a 5 out of 10. Like the fact that he hasn't gotten there as a double digit DK guy doesn't mean that he can't do it. He could certainly do in this game and I think this is something that we're going to talk about after we're done reviewing these players. Like I think in addition to evaluating these players, I think game script is so important in making your lineup.
100%.
So if you're making a game script where Mahomes is throwing a lot in the second half, I think it makes sense to have Brown in your lineup. Mm-hmm. So, but if you think that this can be, lower scoring game that might be that where neither team is desperate to throw, then I probably wouldn't have Brown in that instance. So, all right. So anyway, Isaiah Pacheco, 5,200. This is a 0 out of 10 for me. I am not playing him. I think I wrote that even if he's 100, even if he's 1% owned, he's over owned. This guy's not getting any carries. He hasn't touched the ball more than 6 times in a game since week 16. And he looks like his shell of his former self. Now, maybe next year he'll come back and be himself again, but now he just looks decrepit. I don't want any part of him. What do you think?
We 100% agree. Yeah, I already alluded to it earlier. They gave him some carries early in the game. I don't know that he was he even in the play on the final drive where they scored the go ahead touchdown or the go ahead field goal. I don't even know he was in. I don't think Isaiah Pacheco was even in the game the last two drives against the Bills.
P. Ryan was out there.
Yeah, that's right. Peter Ryan was getting carries and targets in the passing game. So yeah, I think they know he's not right. We just it's just a bummer because he's a good player and fun to watch. And so yeah, he's not right. I would imagine, we see this with coaches all the time. Like in the regular season, even when a player's not right, they're willing to give him like a little bit of latitude because if they lose, it's not the end of the world. But as you get later in the year, as games start to count more and more, coaches begin to kind of show their cards a little bit. Like who do they really trust? And then in the playoffs, you see that more and more. In a situation like this, it's like okay, the coaches take no chances. If they don't trust him, which seems like they don't really trust him, they're not going to give him any carries. So maybe he comes in here and there just to spell Kareem Hunt. But yeah, if he gets more than 3 carries, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, for sure. Andrew asking, Waltz, are you doing Waltz? What are you doing for Super Bowl odds for next year? I bet you'll like the Redskins a lot. Yeah, I bet the Redskins already 20-1. I think they are top 3 team in the NFC. Arguably with Jane Daniels having more experience, and they have the 3rd most cap space in the NFL. They can get Myles Garrett, they can get T. Higgins, they can get Ronnie Stanley. Like that's a scary team. So yeah, I like the Redskins. Vikings at 40-1 look pretty good to me. They were 14-3 this year, I believe. And they have a lot of cap space too. So I think they're going to be good too. So those are 2 teams to look out for. Obviously, the best teams in the NFL, Eagles, Chiefs, Bills. I'm going to be interested in if I can get a decent price, and that's where like your boosts that you get on sports books, like the profit boost, like 25% boost, like 50% boost, like you can win a bunch of those, or just get them as bonuses for depositing, and then like you can turn a Chiefs 6-1 into a 9-1. You can do it that way, so that'll look better. Or whatever the Eagles are, just 50% it, and then just do it that way. I think that's the mistake I made last year. Like for 2024, I just assumed that the Chiefs would lose a few games, kind of like they did in 2023, where they lost to the Raiders on Christmas, then they lost to the Packers on Sunday Night Football. I'm like, yeah, I want to bet the Chiefs, but I'll wait till they lose, and they just never lost. So I was really frustrating. But I think we can do that this year with the profit boost. So, all right. Anyway, let's get to.
By the way, I mentioned earlier that the Eagles are plus 1.5 on Hard Rock. It actually has moved to 1. It moved this morning. I didn't realize it. So it's now plus 1 at Hard Rock as well.
Okay.
It looks like the trends have been slightly in favor of the Eagles here.
Yeah, I don't think it'll cross. I don't think the Eagles will be favored by kickoff. I think it'll stay at 1. I mean, what do I know? But I think that's where it's going to stay. All right, Harrison Butker, 5,000. I have him as a 4 out of 10. Now he's the better kicker in this game. I mentioned that the Eagles were better at every position except for quarterback. I think kicker as well. So the Chiefs are better kicker, I should say. But I like usually if there's a kicker in the winning lineup, it's from the winning team. I think the Eagles will win, so I'd rather play Elliott, even though he struggled. But if you like the Chiefs, if you think the Chiefs are going to win, and you have them winning 23-21, that is 3 field goals. So Butker would at least get 9 points plus the 2 extra points. That's 11. Yeah. And if he hits anything farther than the 39, then that's 4 or 5. So maybe 12 or 13 points. That could be in the winning lineup. So I have him as 4 out of 10. What do you have him at?
Yeah. To me, for those reasons, I would put him like an 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. Okay. For you just explain the reason. Like if I think the Chiefs are going to be the likely winner and a lot of field goals, then it makes sense to have Buckner in the lineups. So because of the emotions of it all, I could never actually do that. Like I couldn't actually, like with my head, I think it's the Chiefs, but I couldn't handle the emotional sabotage I'm doing to myself. And so I just as an Eagles fan, I just I couldn't get even in my betting days, I just never bet the Eagles. for or against. I just couldn't do it, right? So
Yes.
But yeah, if someone's being much more objective and more rational than me, then I think Buckner's a great play because I think the game script potential there.
Okay. Jake Elliott, 4,800. Like I said, he's been struggling. My dad believes he was point shaving in the Rams game. So you're like, why would you play Jake Elliott? What a stupid thing to do. I was 5 out of 10. I'd rather play him than Butker. Like I said, kicker in the winning lineup you can play, and I think on the winning team I should say you can play, and I think the Eagles will win. Elliott's DK point totals since week 15, 7, 11, 10, 8, 11, 19, and 10. Like he could be in the winning lineup with an 11 or 12 or 13. So for the same reason you like Butker, I like Elliott, even though he has struggled a little bit. So what do you think about Elliott?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the inverse, right?
Right.
And as an Eagles fan, I'll tell you, man, his kicking struggles are real and scary. If it comes down to the moment where he's got to make a 45-yarder, man, I'm not, anything low 40s and in, I'm still confident in him. But man, he missed 2 extra points in the playoff game, against the Rams. So did he miss one against the Redskins too? I can't remember. Yeah, he did. He missed an extra point, didn't he?
No, I don't think he missed against the Redskins.
Okay, maybe I'm misremembering. Okay, but he missed 2 against the Rams. And so I just, I don't feel great about Elliott. I think it's a very scary thing.
I think you're thinking of the Packer game. He missed one against the Packers, but he was 7 of 7 against the Redskins. So maybe things turn around. He missed the field goal against the Redskins. I think that you might be thinking of that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that he and Justin Tucker, who are considered 2 of the best kickers in the NFL, suddenly really struggling. Now, Tucker might be massage related, and Elliott might be point shave related. It's two different things. But at least like as Slew pointing out, it could be really windy in the Superdome. Maybe they'll shut off the lights and then he won't be able to kick, or maybe that'll help him. We'll see. Anyway. So who's up? DeAndre Hopkins up next, 4,400. I put him as 1 out of 10. I'm thinking that's a mistake. He's not out there very much. He's running like 13 to 15 routes per game. He's getting 1 or 2 targets. I think I was considering betting him under 1.5 receptions. I know that there's a syndicate out there that did that. But he's just not used very much. So yeah. I don't see how you play him at 4,400. If you were like 2,000, maybe, but 4,400 is too much for a guy, like even if he's your last piece. I'd rather play the kickers. So what do you think about Hopkins?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Not only they're not using him much, he's just kind of toast. Like he's just not the same player. We watch him play. And the only reason he was getting some sort of action was they didn't really have any other options. I mean, they got Drek at the receiver position, but once Brown come on and Worthy started to develop, like I don't see any reason in this game with 2 weeks off that they're prepared. Now that Brown is like much more involved in the offense, coming off injury, like I could foresee this being a game where Hopkins, we don't hear his name at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I he just may not do anything. You're right. All right. We get to the defenses now. Eagles defense, 4,200. Usually a kicker or a defense is in the winning lineup. And, like I said, with the kickers, kicker from the winning team, defense from the winning team as well. So this is a 5 out of 10 for me. I know the Chiefs usually don't have a lot of turnovers, but they've had such an easy schedule this season. They haven't faced a team like the Eagles at all. Maybe the Bills, but the Bills don't have the same defense that the Eagles do. And I think the Eagles could really dominate with their pass rush. They could they can have some sacks. They could force some turnovers. I think there's a script out there. Now, you think the Chiefs win by 2. I think the Eagles win by 3. Andy thinks the Eagles win by 9. I think that there's a possibility that this might be like the Tampa-Kansas City Super Bowl, where if one team dominates, it will be the Eagles. I can't see the Eagles getting blown out. I can see the Chiefs getting blown out because their offensive line, their tackles are just so bad. So I think the Eagles.
Are you saying that even with Tooney moving the left tackle?
Yeah, well, that just makes Jalen Carter's matchup better.
Yeah.
That's so like I don't really don't see how the Chiefs can block the Eagles like reliably. So I like the Eagles defense quite a bit. Same as Elliott, I guess 5 out of 10. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I'm not as confident on you, but people should not listen to me because I'm being informed by emotions. I just got picture. Mahomes is just the freaking best at the wimpy scamper. That's what I call it. Just like you've got him. You've got 3 guys on him. There's 100% chance it seems like for a sack, and then all of a sudden he just sort of like squirms out and just sort of like slips out and kind of just like tiptoes like a ballerina down the sideline. It's just like I don't know. I was gonna say gay ballerina, but I held that back. But then I decided not to hold it back anyway. But
don't hold anything back in the show. Come on.
So I just so annoyed. But anyway, so I just have visions of him doing that, and so yeah, I think you're right. If there's a blowout to be had, I think it's in the Eagles' favor for sure. I just don't think that's the case. So yeah, I'd be someone's.
It's hard to run away with their parents' phone. Yes, I've had that so many times.
And so I'm not sure I'd be all over either one of these defenses. To be honest, I don't. I'd be surprised if either defense were to come up massive in a way that would tip the scales. I'd be more. You mentioned the winning lineup almost always has either a kicker or a defense. I'd be more likely to be on a kicker than a defense in this game.
Okay. I'm 50-50 with Elliott and Eagles defense personally. And Chiefs defense, you just mentioned you don't like these defenses. I like the Chiefs defense a lot less than Butker. I'm a 2 out of 10. Like fluky stuff could happen. There could be weird turnovers. So you can't I couldn't never put them at 0 out of 10, but the Eagles don't turn the ball over usually. So 2 out of 10 for me. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think the Eagles don't turn the ball over very little. And so now the rate at which the Eagles have protected the football over the last 2 months is like absurd, like historically great. So like of course it'll be my luck that when that'll end in the Super Bowl. But like I think it's like over the last over the last 5 games of the regular season and the playoffs, it's like 27-2 turnover ratio, something stupid like that. And so like just like dumb, like who does that? Like that just doesn't continue. So the Chiefs, I think are the type of team that could turn the ball over because of the flavor of play, right? Mahomes doesn't, but I could see a Kareem Hunt or if Isaiah Pacheco's in the game, not fully healthy, not protecting the ball, like those kinds of players cough it up.
Yeah, for sure. Cassandra's saying I did 2 free lineups the other day in the 5K and 5K contest, 50K. Kelsey captain, Hollywood, Butker, Goddard, Mahomes, Devontae Smith, and then Barkley captain, Chiefs, Goddard, Gray, Mahomes, Worthy. Yeah, it seemed good to me. I don't see any issues there. Those seem like good lineups. What do you think?
I like them. You know what I noticed, by the way, also? Did you know that Noah Gray scored more touchdowns this year than Travis Kelce? Did you know that?
That's I'm not surprised to hear that because Kelce usually doesn't do much in the regular season, whereas playoffs he goes off. Although against the Bills he did nothing. Yeah. He did less than nothing.
Just wow. Oh, I didn't realize that. He really was not a focal point of the offense in the red zone at all this year until the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, that's sort of what it was last year too.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, weird. All right. So we'll get to know Gray in a second. We have Kenneth Gainwell, 3,400. So he's coming off a concussion. He practiced fully today, so sounds like he's going to play, but he could relapse. If he plays, he hasn't hit double-digit DK points all year. I don't see where the upside is with him. If it's a blowout, I think Shipley's getting on the field.
Right.
So you don't even get that with Gainwell. So I wouldn't play him. I have him as a 1 out of 10. So if I'm doing 150 lineups, maybe 10 lineups of Gainwell, I'd maybe even less. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. 1 out of 10 is the best it would be. I don't foresee them giving him the ball much in this game at all. I think it's going to just be, he got moments throughout the season as a means of spelling Barkley. Just giving Barkley rest. Like, this is the last game of the year. Like, there's no rest to be had. So it's going to be all Barkley. And if it were to be a blowout, or God forbid Barkley were to get injured, I think Shipley. I think it's a split game. Maybe they 50-50 in carries, Gainwell and Shipley. I think Shipley would absolutely be in the mix. And in that case, I don't want the $3,400 guy. I want the cheaper guy.
Exactly. All right. Noah Gray, you mentioned him, 2,800. He's my top punt play. Now, he could do nothing. He could get a 0 for sure. But he is involved in the offense. Eagles bad against tight ends, as I mentioned. So you have a positive matchup there. And I mentioned earlier, Kobe Parkinson scored a touchdown against them in the divisional round. So Gray seems like a decent value, 2,800. Like, he's sometimes the last guy in my lineup. Like, if I have like 3,500 left, like, I'm sometimes putting him in. So what do you think about him? Also, what's his ownership? Kind of curious about that.
Oh, I closed that. That window out. Let me pull it back up. His projected ownership is okay. Noah Gray projected ownership 4.7. Does that sound right?
It's pretty low. Yeah, I don't trust this website.
No, never mind. Hold on. I'm reading the wrong thing. Noah Gray. Oh, 11.5. Sorry, I was reading the wrong thing.
Okay. That makes more sense. All right.
11.5. All
right. What do you think about Gray?
I actually like him a lot as a low on the low budget side. On the because of the Chiefs' style, because they diversify the kind of the passing game so much. Noah Gray, he had 5 touchdowns in a regular season. I mean, he absolutely could be involved in this game. Gets the Eagles defense that intentionally lets the middle of the field kind of be softer. And so on the Eagles side, the Eagles, the offense funnels through just a few guys, right? It's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Barkley Goddard. It's like 4 guys, really 3.5, because Devontae Smith is barely involved. It seems like the last few weeks. So it's like, I think at the end of, like, where the Chiefs, it's like they're going to have 10 guys involved, throughout the course of a significant parts of the game. So I absolutely would say the lower end guys on the Chiefs are worthy to be in your lineup, where the lower end guys on the Eagles, I'm just like, I would not be messing with those guys for the most part. So I think Noah Gray and we'll mention Juju in a second are both guys that I'd be looking at a little bit.
Okay, so speaking of lower guys on the Eagles side, Will Shipley 2,400. If Gainwell's out, I definitely have interest. Not a lot of interest, but like 2 out of 10 if Gainwell's out. If Gainwell's active, 0 out of 10. Although, like, he could be on the field if there's a garbage time, but that could just be 2 carries. Like, he's not necessarily going to do what he did against the Redskins, like rush for a long gain and then get a touchdown. So, like, again, like, if I'm making 150 lineups, maybe if Gainwell's out, like, he's probably in like 20 of them, 15 to 20 of them. If Gainwell's in, 0. So what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, if Gainwell's out, then I would say maybe 2 out of 10. Like, give me a 4. Give me a 4% ownership. Which is like quadruple what his ownership projection is. So his ownership projection is under 1%. So give me if Gainwell's playing, it's a 0. I think Gainwell ends up being the main guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So you mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't like him here. This might be one way we differ. Like, he's not playing that much. I know he made 2 big plays against the Bills, but that was a byproduct of the Bills' injuries in the secondary. Like, the Eagles don't have those sort of issues. I don't think Juju's going to do very much. Like, before that AFC Championship, like, he was nowhere to be found at all. He runs like 13 to 15 routes. Actually, he might have ran. I forget exactly how many routes he ran in the AFC Championship. He ran 13 routes against the Texans. Sorry, so he ran 13 routes against the Texans. He ran more against the Bills. But I don't necessarily think that he's going to run a lot again. So I'm at a 1 out of 10. I think that he's going to be overowned based on what he did against the Bills. So I just want to fade him. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, maybe put me in the category of guys that might overown him. Then if I'm looking at the cheap guys, the cheapos, just like I just want some space to get the other guys. Who of all the cheapy guys, who's the guy most likely to score a touchdown? I think to me it's Juju. I think it's the obvious answer. I don't think it's Hopkins. I don't think it's Noah Gray. And I just talked of Gray a little bit, but like of all the guys in that of the cheapy guys that are 3,400 and less, who's the most likely to guy to get in the end zone? I think it's Juju. So he's played enough games. He's played in big games. He's had a couple big plays in the playoffs. He had a couple big plays in the Super Bowl 2 years ago against the Eagles. Obviously the biggest play is not being held but being called for holding. Anyway, it's a different conversation. Still bitter 2 years later.
Right.
Yeah, I think like he's not a great player. He's never really been a great player, and he's not what he once was even. But if having Juju in my lineup gets me the opportunity to maximize my dollars and get every other player I want, I think he's the best punt option, as you called it.
So for the problem I have with that is I feel like a lot of people are going to do that. Do you have his ownership projection for that? I feel like
let me pull it up.
Okay.
Juju, where are you at? Juju 2000, 14.5. It's pretty high.
That's pretty high for Juju.
That's really high, actually.
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of people who've emailed me or sent me messages on social media stuff, asking me about hey, what do you think about my lineup, and whatnot, and I feel like all the time their last player is Juju, and I'm like, man, I don't know about him. You just saw him make 2 big plays. I don't know if that's going to happen again. I don't he may not even play more than 13 to 15 snaps. I don't know. I just. Yeah, it could happen, but given that he's done nothing before the AFC Championship, I don't see why that was something changed. And again, is the Bills' injuries caused that? The Eagles' secondary should be able to take care of him pretty easily if he plays. If he play, he may not play at all. They could feature someone else. So if his ownership was 1%, I'd probably have some interest. Maybe if again 150 lineups, probably 10 lineups. 15 lineups.
No.
But
I will say,
sorry. No, that's saying, but at 14, 15% ownership, that's seems too high for me.
So there's another website that I've been using. I've been consulting on, or not consult. I'm not a consultant. I don't work for them. I've been checking it out. Line Star app is a website. I never heard of it until a couple days ago. So
I heard of them. Yeah, they're pretty good.
And so I've been trying to look at different DFS websites to get a feel for who's got the best products. Just trying to get a feel for what's out there as we think about doing stuff for Walter Football in 2025. But they, as I'm looking at their website and the other site, their ownership projections have been really close. Juju's the only one where they have a pretty significant divergence. Line Star projects Juju's ownership at 39.3, which I can't even. Wow. I don't even sound right. They can't even be accurate.
You know what? I mean, based on the interest I've seen in him from people who've emailed me now, it's not that many people, but still, I'm arguing with these people. I'm like, I wouldn't play Juju, and they're like, come on, he's only 2K. He's all he needs to do is make 2 catches. I don't know. Yeah, as John Sanders saying, Juju made a couple plays in the AFC Championship. Yeah, with the injuries to the Bills secondary, I would not play him. If that Line Star projection is correct, then I think I trust Line Star more than the other site.
That seems so high.
But he's only 2K, and the guys you want in your line, people want. And here's why people are emailing me. They're like, I have Barkley, Hurts, and Mahomes and Goddard in my lineup. I can't fit any more guys. Who would you recommend? They all gravitate to Juju, and I think everyone's going to do that.
They're doing the same thing I did, right? You're looking at the cheapy guys and going, okay, which of these guys have I seen score a touchdown in a big play at some point in the last 5 years?
Right.
And Juju's the only guy.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a mistake. I wouldn't play him, especially if it's 33%. Imagine gaining leverage on 33% of the field. You could knock out a third of the people in the contest. That's something that's.
I have a hard time believing that projection to be accurate. I just that feels so high.
I think it's somewhere in between. I'm willing to bet it comes in at low 20s, 21, 22%.
But if you're right, I mean, but even in that case, that's still high leverage, right? If you're able to have an edge over a fifth of the field, that's substantial.
Yeah, that's the rake times 2. So it's something to keep in mind. That's my fade. That's my guy. I don't want any part of Juju. Jahan Dotson, 1,600. He caught a touchdown against the Packers and hasn't done anything since. He hasn't seen a target in the past 2 games. He's a 0 out of 10. Do you have any interest in Dotson?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Although I did see there's an Instagram account that I follow. They were doing simulations, and they used some software to do 40,000 simulations, and they were like, this was the most probable outcome. And they had like they used like Madden to like play out like what the most probable the ending of the game is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Eagles are down 37-31, and with 13 seconds left, Jalen Hurts throws a 13-yard touchdown pass to Jahan Dotson. They kick the extra point, they take the lead and win the game.
That's the most probable outcome. It's like that's at least likely outcome.
This is the most, so I forget the name of it. Some Instagram account I follow that does they basically play games on Madden, but so they use some software that runs 40,000 simulations, and they pick one of the 40,000 that has like the most instances or whatever. And
wow, I think Dotson's rating might be a little too high in Madden. I think that's what's impacting it.
Yeah, that's probably you're probably right. It's like so the Eagles win on a last minute touchdown to Dotson, 38-37 in that simulation.
I'll take it because I like I said earlier. Well, I don't know if I told you I have the Eagles. I made a bet on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl back in April. It's 17-1. And I plan on hedging it or middling it. Actually, I want to bet the Chiefs plus 3.5 alt line. I think it's like the best vig I saw is minus 192. So I want to try to middle. So if the Eagles win by 1, 2, or 3, I win both. So that's my plan for this game. All right, Samaje Perine, 1,200. So he's touched the ball just once in the playoffs. He had that catch against the Bills. But the Chiefs have not been in the negative game script yet in the playoffs. So I think people might be looking at his stats and saying, oh, only he hasn't done anything. I think that if the Chiefs fall behind, you're going to see him a lot. So I think if you're considering Juju, I would just save $800 and go to Perine personally. I'd rather play Perine than Juju. What do you think about Perine?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good point, particularly the way Pacheco has looked and the way we're thinking he's not going to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really thought about that, but that's actually I think that's a good contrarian move potentially, because we did see him again. P. Ryan's not going to get 10 carries. He's not going to get 5 targets. Like it's not going to be that. But we saw him legitimately involved in the fourth quarter on the 2 drives that mattered the most in that game. They clearly got him. They clearly trusted him. So. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs are telling you what they believe, that what they thought. They thought the P. Ryan was more trustworthy than the Pacheco at that point. For 1,200, you could do a lot worse, right? I mean, the probability of him scoring a touchdown is low, yeah. But if he does score a touchdown or gets a handful of catches on if the Chiefs are down a touchdown in the fourth quarter and they're trying to score at the end, and P. Ryan gets 3 or 4 catches on a drive, like that's not crazy, right? No. He would totally pay off at that price, but that price, he doesn't have to do much to pay off.
Yeah, I mean, we'll make the lineups for after this, but I'm curious to see what sort of lineups we can make with Perine in the flex. All right, so a couple more guys. Grant Calcaterra, 1,000. I forgot to put a rating here. I think it's 1 out of 10. He plays a lot, but he also blocks a lot. Like he's just mainly a blocker. He runs some routes like 5 to 8. So like he could catch a touchdown and get there, but that may not be enough. So I'm not going to play him. What do you think about him?
0 out of 10.
Okay. Justin Watson, $600. Before Marquise Brown came back, he was seeing some action. He would catch an occasional deep pass, but he's disappeared. He hasn't had a target in the playoffs. So 0 out of 10. Any interest in Watson?
Yeah, same.
Okay. And last guy, the only 200 guy I think that is noteworthy is Nico Remigio because he's the Chiefs kickoff returner. If he gets a kickoff return touchdown, you will get some points, and he's only 200. So like, there's a lot of top end guys in this slate, and so if you want to play all of them and you need a guy like at 200 just to make your lineup work, he's the guy you want at 200. So I put him in at 0.5 out of 10 just for that reason. That weird instance where you only have $200 left. But I'm not going to play him. What do you think?
It's a 0 out of 10 for me. I understand the scenario you're describing.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm in essence punting an entire position. Like I'm going into my lineup with one less guy that's going to actually give me like. So all my other guys have to pay off and overproduce, and if you're spending that much money, then the probability of that is high. But I don't like the idea that like I'm going to have a position in that I am quite confident that I would bet a lot of money is going to be 0. So I can't. It doesn't sit well with me.
I've seen that quite a bit. It's not like overwhelming, but like sometimes I'll see lineups where there's a 0 in there and it's some scrub and they only put him in there because it made the rest of the lineup work. So that's why I gave it like a point a half out of 10. But I don't like that either. This is not the sort of thing I like. Usually you see that in Baseball Showdown where you have like a reliever in there. And like sometimes the reliever doesn't even play, but it just makes the rest of your lineups work. I hate Baseball Showdown. I wish they would fix that because like you have to like do research into your relievers, and I feel like people who do that have such a big edge in the showdowns. Like I just don't have time to do that. So I'm not a big fan of that. So let's build some lineups. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Okay, so like I said, a lot of this is contingent on game script, and I'll zoom in a second once I get to the screen. So I feel like we should build lineups where it's like an even game. One lineup where the Eagles are winning in a blowout, and then maybe some other scripts. I don't know what else you can possibly think of, but I don't want to build a Chiefs blowout scenario. Just don't think that's going to happen. So let's build a lineup here, and I will zoom in as promised. Okay. So where do you want to start? You want to start with like a back. Let's start with a back and forth type game.
Yeah. Mid-20 scoring back and forth type game.
Yeah, 23-20 as I have in my predicted score. Or is yours 23-21? Who do you think is the winning captain in that scenario? Like, where would you want to go? Is it like Barkley, Hurts, and someone else?
Yeah, in a back and forth where that's mid-20s where the Chiefs were to win. I think the winning captain is Kelsey. Is my bet.
Okay. Kelsey is captain. I assume you want to. We talked about having Barkley in every lineup, so let's put him in. I think we can only play one quarterback with this because we put in both. We have 20-50 left per player, so that doesn't work. Are you playing Mahomes with Kelsey, or are you going Hurts?
Yeah, no, I think I'm playing him naked. I think I prefer Hurts. Okay. But I think Buckner is the right move in that lineup, right? And a Chiefs victory in that. So where does that bring us there?
45-50 per player. So we could look at Juju. Let's see what like P Ryan wouldn't work here. I don't think Juju would, frankly, either. I feel like Juju would get there if the Chiefs are playing a garbage time or something. But I don't know. I mean, if we put Juju in. We have 7,100 left, and that only gets us Kareem Hunt or Goddard. Like we could do this and have 1,300 left over. But if you don't want to do that, let's say you take Juju out, you only have 3,300. You can put Noah Gray in. You could have 2 tight ends here for the Chiefs, plus the kicker, and then you have for the Eagles, you have Barkley, Hurts, and Goddard with 500 left.
I don't hate that. That feels like in that game script. That feels like a viable lineup.
I like this lineup for like single entry or 3 max because you're going to be in a contest with not too many people, like 5,000 or so, or 10, or probably fewer than 10,000, probably like 4, 5, 6,000. If you enter this into the main contest, which has almost 300,000 people. Yeah, I feel like this lineup's gonna be duplicated a lot.
100%.
Yeah. So what I like to do is to build the lineup I like, and then take out a player for a much cheaper option and have money left over. So if you take out Who are we taking out? We could take out Butker, or we could take out Goddard. If we take out Goddard, for example, and put in, see, the options here kind of suck. Suck. Like I don't want to put in Hopkins. You can put in Marquise Brown, have 900 left over. I think that's okay.
How about Dotson? What's the Dotson cost?
Dotson, 1,600. That's gonna be a unique lineup.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. Actually, I think we could take out. We can go to Brown, or I don't know what else. What else you might be thinking? I think this is less likely to be duplicated. Well, this is gonna be duplicated, but like not nearly as much as the other one. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So I'd rather play this, even though I like Goddard more than Brown. There are scenarios in which Brown's going to outscore Goddard. So I would rather play this than the other one. So just like I'd rather play this in the main contest, but I'd rather play the original with Goddard in single entry. Yeah.
For 3 max, you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whichever one. I mean, they're all like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 per people, but entries in there, and sometimes even fewer. Like sometimes they're like 2,000. You get like less for first place, but still.
Your probability of winning is higher. So
exactly, yeah. What are the odds Bucker wins MVP and Donald Trump proposes on the field?
13%.
Nice. Okay, so this will be a lineup in which the Chiefs win a back and forth game. Let's do a lineup where the Eagles win back and forth game. I like the idea of Hurts as captain because you mentioned that his captaincy ownership is 11%.
Yeah.
So I would go Hurts and Barkley.
Barkley's going to be in the 30% range.
What do you mean?
His captaincy ownership is going to be in the.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like Hurts is the winning captain way more than 11% of the time. So I like the idea of doing that. And then
is Barkley the winning? Is Barkley the winning captain more than 30% of the time?
Probably. I think they're both. I think they're both underowned.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy to think, right? That's like, I mean, they're the two biggest stars on the Eagles, and Barkley's one of the biggest stars in the league. The fact that he could be potentially underowned in some ways is actually kind of funny.
Yeah, and I think it's because they both account for so much production on this team. Like they could either, I think like one of them, or at least one of them, is going to score 30 plus DK points, and that just takes you to a level that no one else can on the slate. Maybe Kelsey, maybe Mahomes. I don't see who else. Like, yeah, you can play like Goddard at captain, but like you're sacrificing so many potential points, like in favor of saving salary. I think I'd rather just play Barkley or Hurts at captain, and just worry about everything else. So, all right, let's run it back with for example, first let's see. Mahomes only gives us 41.33 per player, which, if you want to include Juju, you even that out. This is why Juju's so highly owned.
Yeah,
because people are like, wait, I only have 4,100 left. Let me put in Juju. I have 5,200 left, and suddenly I put in Eagles defense 6,200. I could play Goddard. Like this lineup is going to be played like 500 times, or no, maybe way like this is going to be like 1,000 times. Like everyone's going to do this, So let's take these guys out. And so obviously, if this is back and forth, we want some Chiefs. Where would you start? Or like, would you go Kelsey or Brown? What do you think?
It's hard to get away from Kelsey to start with. Like, it's Kelsey or Brown. I've already kind of think I just think Worthy is, overowned and overpriced, and so I think to me, those are the two guys I want to start with, either Kelsey or Brown.
Okay, so if we put both in, it's 4,000 left per player. If we take that out and we put in like Noah Gray, it's 5,300 left per player. Then we could even put in Brown and then have room for a kicker. You could do this, Jake Elliott. But again, only 400 left. Not a fan of leaving only 400 left, but like that's something you could do.
Yep.
Now, if you wanted to do my strategy of taking one guy out and just downgrading them, I think.
Yeah, I kind of to your point earlier that this kind of lineup is fine in a single entry, but you wouldn't want it in the big GPP.
Right, exactly. So in this scenario, maybe take out Kelsey and put in. I know we didn't like him, but Worthy, for example, and suddenly this is going to be a lot less owned. Or take out Elliott and put in Eagles defense. That's 1,000 left over. I think that's a lot. It's going to be duplicated far fewer times.
Yeah.
So you could do that. Any leans here? Like, what would you do to close out this line? Like, would you play Gray and Brown?
I lean toward the kickers in that scenario. As like if I'm getting a cheapy player, like want to go to a cheaper player. I think in these game scripts we're talking about, both kickers end up scoring more points than you expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so at this rate, we have 4,300 left with Elliott in there. Would you go to Gray, or let's just say like we go to Juju, we have 6,600. You could put in Hunt if you wanted to. Maybe he scores a couple touchdowns, but then again, you only have $200 left over, so you could take out Hunt and go to Marquise Brown. Now you have 1,200 here. So, I don't like Juju, but this is something you could do if you wanted to. You can go to Gray. That's a viable lineup, but still, I actually think we did this early. I got to the same lineup. Earlier, so.
That's why it's can be duped a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
If you if in that same game script, I'd like to see using one of your cheap players. You're using your $200 player. Who's the $200 player you want to play?
Nico Remigio. So here's the trick, right? If Remigio scores a touchdown, the Chiefs defense is also going to score a touchdown. So you have 9,200 left suddenly. So you can play Worthy if you wanted to. Or you can take out Kelsey and put in Mahomes. You have 8,200 left. You can still play Worthy. You can play Devontae Smith. You could do this. Or you can go.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Or you can go way more contrarian, go down to Goddard. You have 2,400 left. Like, Goddard could outscore Smith. And so you basically have the same lineup where, if you get a Chiefs kickoff return, this could be the winning lineup, like, easily.
Yeah. And you would get Kenny crying. So that's a twofer.
Well, no, Kenny, this is a Eagles winning a close game.
Oh, right. That's right. Okay, all right. I mean, I would still cry during the kickoff return, though. I mean, that would be a moment of crying. So
that's true, but it would make the rest of it so much sweeter. So, I think this makes a lot of sense. Like, you might be thinking, why Mahomes naked? Like, you could change out Goddard and put in Marquise Brown if that makes you feel better. You even have like more money left over, so that's even less contrarian. But I think that I think Mahomes naked makes sense if he runs in a touchdown. Like, if the Chiefs score 2 touchdowns in this game, and let's put Goddard back, and one of them's kickoff return and one of them's Mahomes rushing, and he leads the team in rushing, like, that makes sense to me. Like, that could easily happen. So don't be afraid to play Mahomes without a receiver.
Yeah, because of their style of play, because of the diversify the passing game so much, I absolutely think it's a viable option, which we would normally would not do that.
Right, exactly. Okay, yeah. I mean, generally, it has to be a running quarterback where you play him naked. If it's like a Joe Burrow, for example. No, Joe Burrow can run a little bit, but still, like, if it's Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, like, you want to have those guys with those receivers. But Mahomes, Hurts, you can play them naked. Okay, so do you want to do Eagles blowout scenario? Eagles onslaught. Now, where do you think?
The Eagles onslaught. Barkley's the captain, right? Because Barkley scores 3 touchdowns.
Yes,
192 yards. Catches 3 passes. That's the. Yeah. and I guess you play him with Hurts, right? Because if it's, I mean, well, maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think one of them would definitely be the captain.
Yeah.
But they could both be in there. Like if Barkley scores 2-3 times and Hurts scores 2-3 times, then that's the Eagles are going to get a lot of touchdowns in an onslaught scenario. So
Yeah.
And with that, I would play Eagles defense too, because if there's an onslaught, they're getting a lot of sacks. Maybe they're getting some turnovers. Then I think they would be in the lineup too.
Yep.
Um,
Who is the economically priced chief that's most likely to get peppered with garbage time targets?
As Pirine. There we go. Pirine takes us. What does he take us from 5,800 left per player to 8,100 left per player?
Come on.
Right, and then so I think you go to Mahomes because Mahomes is throwing a lot in garbage time. You have 6,200 left, and that could take us to Goddard.
Yep.
And we have $400 left now.
Got it. Or if you feel like that's too much left on the table, although that's a pretty unique lineup with Pirine, right? Like that's not going to get duped a lot.
Not a lot, yeah, a little bit.
But with $400 left, you might get duped. So maybe a kicker in there instead of Goddard.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah, you could put Elliott in there because if the Eagles are ahead, then they're going to kick some field goals and a lot of extra points. So Elliott's going to get there. So you have to ask yourself, like, is Elliott going to score more points where Barkley and Hurts are doing everything, or is Goddard going to score more points? I think the answer is Elliott, actually. Because, the Eagles, if they're way ahead, they're not going to throw a lot in the second half. So Elliott could do that. And by the way, if you didn't want to play Pirine, you could also play Shipley too. And I think, there's enough room there. Shipley, well, no one's going to play Shipley, right? So right. Even if you have 200 left over, you don't have to worry about that. So you can do Shipley.
His ownership projection is less than 1%.
Right. See, so yeah. So this is how I would build Eagles onslaught. So wait, is it Wednesday or Thursday night? We reschedule here. So we had the double show. John, you weren't on when we had Andy on earlier, so we had two guests on tonight, which was pretty fun. All right, any other builds that you wanted to do?
What if there's a high scoring game? What if it's like it was 2 years ago? Again, I don't think it'll be the case, but what if it's 38-35 or 41-33, which by the way is the greatest score of any game ever in NFL history, 41-33. Of course, that was the day Nick Foles proved that he was the greatest quarterback of all time. But yeah, what if you have that kind of game? I think it's an AJ Brown game. If it's a high scoring game, back and forth, I think that's the scenario in which the Eagles have unleashed the passing game.
I think you're right. I think it's Brown or Smith, or Kelsey. I think one of those guys is going nuts. Actually, let's look at the box score from that game. I think that's kind of instructive here. So we have for the Chiefs, Mahomes 182 yards only. That's pretty low. 3 touchdowns. Pacheco 76 yards and a touchdown. Kelsey 81 yards and a touchdown. Juju 7 for 53, and then no one else had more than 18 receiving yards. So it's pretty concentrated with Kelsey and Juju. For the Eagles, Hurts had 304 and 1 passing touchdown, but he also had 70 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns.
Insane.
So Hurts was the winning captain in this lineup. So it could also obviously be Hurts. This is why I like him to be the winning captain. I think that he has the sort of potential. You mentioned that they abandoned the running game. Gainwell 7 for 21. Sanders sucks 7 for 16. The Eagles have not missed him at all. So some people I know in Philly made a big deal about that. Like, oh, they're gonna miss Miles Sanders. Like, no, not at all. Devontae Smith.
I didn't miss him for a moment.
No, not at all. Devontae Smith 7 for 100. Brown, as you mentioned, 6 for 96 and a touchdown. Goddard 6 for 60. No one else had more than 20 receiving yards. So as if you want to make a lineup based on how this game went, and if you think it's going to be similar, then we could do. Let's pull this up. So we could do a Hurts lineup with Brown Kelsey. Barkley might be too much. Yeah, 1,900 left over. That's pretty tough. So I think you'd have to ditch Kelsey and go Barkley if you wanted that.
Unless you go too cheapy, guys.
It's pretty tough, but it could get there.
P. Ryan and Juju, it's terrible. Lineups not winning.
No, no, it could be one of them. Not two, and maybe Noah Gray. That takes you.
Yeah, Noah Gray might be.
Takes you to 5K. What are you thinking here? Goddard, Brown. I think kicker. It's one of the kickers. Who's winning this game? Eagles or Chiefs? Chiefs won last time. Let's do Butker. So we have 5K left over. There's the other kicker, Hopkins. I'm not in love with this build. So
yeah,
if you go from Brown to Smith, you have options now.
Yeah,
you can go to Goddard. You can go to Marquise Brown. Who would you like here?
I mean, in that scenario, I like Goddard, right?
Mm-hmm.
If everyone's eating, I want all the Smith, Barkley, and Goddard in a high scoring game. If all those guys, as we just saw in that box score, all those guys are cleaning up. Yep. Although in that game, no running back had any yardage or a production, so maybe it cuts into the receiver's production to some extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in this scenario, 1,400 left over. You have no Kelsey, so I don't think this lineup would be duped that much. It'll be duped a little bit, but not 1,000 times. So. And let's do a lineup where you said AJ Brown is captain. Let's build that. Yeah. So AJ Brown captain. Would you also be contrarian here? Because when you went Kelsey, you didn't have Mahomes. So would you put Brown with Mahomes, or would you? Let's put Barkley in because we know that. But So we have 5,900 left per player, which makes the quarterback pretty tough. What would you do next?
I mean, it makes it impossible unless you're going to go to P. Ryan or one of the other cheapy guys.
Yeah, if you go to Mahomes, you have 4,500 left, so you have to put a cheap player in there.
Yeah.
So, what would you do next
in this scenario? I mean, I know you don't love him. I think I would have leaned toward Juju, and that gives me some lead. It's funny. I kind of balked at that percentage number in the 30s, and I thought that just can't be right. But the more you build the lineups, you go, yeah, I can see why Juju's going to be owned a lot. I think it's going to be crazy. He's going to be one of the top 5 owned players. That probably because of his price point, it allows you to get so many other things.
Yeah. I'd rather play Gray in this scenario, but you're right. I mean, it's just like there's so many expensive players that you need. People are be like, oh, I want Barkley in my lineup. I want Hurts. I want Mahomes. I want Kelsey. Suddenly you don't have any money left over, and you have to play Juju. He's the only guy down there who's a big name. So I really think Line Star's onto something with this ownership.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right. So what are you doing? So I guess we have enough money for a kicker now, or a quarterback now, right? So
yeah, we should have money for a quarterback here.
What'd you do, Hurts? Mahomes.
In this scenario, I think I like Mahomes. Running back with Mahomes, he's going to be throwing the ball all over the place, and I'd play him naked, right? I wouldn't be. I mean, I've got Juju there, but I wouldn't feel obligated to get one of the other bigger name receivers in there unless I had the money. I've got the money for it. Great.
You have the money for Brown and Goddard. You can do this in a single entry or 3 max.
That's great. Or I could do a kicker if I'm going to be. I want to get a cheaper player in there.
Yeah. This would be
get Elliott in there and
Elliott. Yeah, 4,200 or Butker. It takes you to 1,200 left over. So.
I like that approach. See, Juju's going to help me. I'm going to be all over him. The rest of America, we're going to be all over Juju.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it really, as you begin to build the lineups, you're just like, okay, this is why the building the lineups is so valuable. Right? You build the lineups, okay, I get why people are going to get the Juju, and then you have to just make a decision. Do I think that's a terrible play, and then you're just going to be contrarian and not play Juju at all, right? That's the and as you said, if Juju ends up sucking, now it just gives you it gives you a major edge over at least a fifth of the field, if not more.
Yeah. Usually I don't like to go down in remaining salary, but if Juju is really going to be owned in the third of the lineups, I'd rather just go to this. I'd rather just go to Gray. 600 left over, but there's going to be far fewer owners of Gray than Juju.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. Even though Gray is priced up,
Yeah, because he
I
didn't
don't
do
think he's going to
anything.
be seen as a.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because like people are all about recency bias. They see this stat 0, they're like, I don't want to play this guy. He didn't do anything. That's an easier matchup this week. The Bills are good against tight ends. Like the Eagles are not. So I'd rather play Gray. Like the Eagles are better receiver against receivers than tight ends. So I'd rather play Gray even though there's 800 more.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny that how it works this way. Like this is gonna be less owned than the Juju lineup, but it's true.
Yep. Although Greg Cosell in that podcast I listened to, I mentioned earlier, did mention that he did think the Eagles did a few times throughout the year. They did put Cooper DeJean man up on tight ends occasionally. They did it very rarely, but he did. He's like, if Fangio wanted to do something that the Chiefs would probably not expect, that would be to put DeJean man-to-man on Kelsey and just leave him. Put Quignon man-to-man on one receiver and then play matchup zone across the board after that. And basically never blitz. Like that would basically make them that would be a surprising thing. And so Cosell's suggestion thought was doing the surprising thing would not be surprising for Fangio. So all that to say, maybe this is the game that the Eagles shut down the tight ends because they decide to do it, and that actually opens up 1 or 2 big plays on the outside. So then Worthy is actually the right play if that were to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if they'll do that. Bagley says I like Devontae Smith as an MVP long shot. Definitely as a DFS captain, could definitely see him having 8 to 10 catches, 140 to 180 yards, and 1 to 2 touchdowns type of day. Let's do that lineup from Bagley. Let's clear this out. Let's put in Devontae Smith as captain. We haven't done that yet. Barkley, obviously in there. And if you put in Hurts, you have 5,500 left per player. Like suddenly you don't need Juju. Like that just like makes it so much better, Eagles kicker, I guess, or Eagles kicker, I suppose. No, 58-50.
In that scenario, this is a high 20s. This is just a 28-24 Eagles victory.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right. So then I like Buckner in that matchup in that game script, right?
You like Buckner? Okay, let's do that. All right. We need some Chiefs here, so we could do Brown.
Yeah, I like Brown.
Marquise Brown. Could put in Goddard, but then we only have 300 left over. That's interesting. I don't know what you would do in this scenario.
What if you go cheaper than Brown? What's the options instead of Brown? Who's the next cheap option you might feel comfortable with?
Well, not Pacheco, not Hopkins.
Gray? Yeah.
You have 8,700 left, so that takes us to Worthy or Hunt. That's the problem here. Is like this range, except for Devontae Smith, is like pretty void. But like, you could do Worthy here. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I would have thought Smith as a captain would have given me more wiggle room. I'm so surprised by this outcome.
Me too. I think it's because like there's not. He's the only guy in this 8,000 to 6,000 range who's like worth playing. Like unless you like Worthy, or unless you like Hunt. I don't. But if you do like Kareem Hunt, I think this makes sense. Putting in Kareem Hunt here, he's 2,300 left over. No, very few people are gonna have this lineup. That's just like, and like you don't have any passing outside of Gray here, and I think that makes sense. If Hunt is the guy scoring the touchdowns for the Chiefs,
that's right.
So that makes sense. If you, like I said, if you like Hunt, then this seems like a really great lineup. Or you can go to Marquise Brown, have 3,300 left over. There's like no one's going to play this. You're going to be if this lineup hits, you're going to be winning the whole thing. Yeah. So
it's a lot of money on the table, man.
Look, I'm not opposed to leaving 3,300 on the table. I've made lineups where I've left like 6,000 on the table.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like that. That puts you in a position to win.
That's true.
But I like this. You can even so if you think this is a lot of money to leave on the table, 6,100. So you could go to Goddard, but that's way too chalky. You could do double kicker. I don't necessarily like that, but you could 1,300. A lot of people aren't going to do double kicker. You can go to Eagles defense, 1,900 left over. That's pretty contrarian. So you have your options here.
I think I like Gray in that block.
Gray, yeah, So 3,300.
Yeah.
We could upgrade. Could we upgrade Butker? I think you could go to Worthy or Hunt if you don't want to go to Butker in this scenario, or you can go to Goddard. What do you think about this? 2,500 left over. You have no kickers, no defenses, but you have good players in there.
Yeah, a scenario where Devontae Smith is balling out. I doubt Goddard scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So you're right. I don't like that either. Actually, like Hunt makes more sense. I think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good starting place.
Yeah. Vikings versus Chargers Hall of Fame game next year. So it's Jared Allen, and who's the guy for the Chargers? Was it Gates? Who was it? Who let's see.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see the Hall of Fame? They made the selection. Eli Manning did not make it.
Good.
Yeah, I don't think he belongs in either. I'm looking for it now. If you guys want to post it, here we go. Antonio Gates, Jared Allen, Eric Allen, Sterling.
Eric Allen. Whoa, look at that! About time Eric Allen got in.
Yeah, he deserves it. So, yeah. So, and then no Eli Manning, no first ballot Eli Manning. So I agree, he didn't deserve it. I think he'll be in it eventually, but still.
Eli Manning did have. I mean, he had stretches where he was awesome, obviously. Yeah, but no, I don't think Eli Manning is deserving of being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, especially not first ballot. That's way too much. I think he's going to be in eventually just because of his name.
Yeah,
but
two Super Bowls.
Yeah, well, look, like Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, right? If Trent Dilfer stayed on the Ravens and they won again, like, would Trent Dilfer be in this Hall of Fame? Like, no way, right? Like, and look, Eli Manning is definitely better than Trent Dilfer, but like, I'm just saying that, like, just because you win 2 Super Bowls doesn't mean you should get in. Like, he wasn't the reason they won. Like, yeah, he made a couple big plays, but it was the defense. It was the front four with Strahan, and then eventually with Umenyiora and all those other guys, Justin Tuck. So,
although in the 2012 season, the defense, the back seven was leaking oil, right? Like, I mean, they were the 2007 defense was awesome. That team player in 2012, Eli played out of his mind in the last few games of the regular season and in the playoffs, and he played out of his mind in that quarter in that Super Bowl. So, like, that second Super Bowl, I give Eli all the credit. Like, I hate the Giants, and
yeah, maybe the Hall of Famers just didn't want their souls to be ripped out of them.
Good.
Eli Manning, the 2 most clutch throws in Super Bowl history. That's basically his whole resume. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Eli Manning was an above average quarterback in the regular season all of his career, right? Like, but he was top. Maybe he was like low end top 10 a few seasons, right? Like 8th or 9th best quarterback. But most of his career, he was like the 12th to 15th best quarterback in the NFL in the regular season. Like, and like the 1 year where he was amazing in the regular season, and they were the 1 seed in the NFC, they got bounced in the first game, their first playoff game to the Eagles. 6th seed came in New York and blew him out. He played terrible in that game. So, like, I don't know. Eli Manning is mediocre as it gets.
Yeah, he had some really good years, like 2015, 4,400 yards, 35 touchdowns, 14 picks. Like, he had 2015. The year before, 2014, 4,400 yards, 30 touchdowns, 14 picks. Like, he had a few great years, but like a lot of it was mediocrity.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him in before Philip Rivers, for example. I think if you put Rivers on the Giants, he definitely wins 2, or maybe not, if not more. I just think he's just a better player.
Oh yeah.
So, and I bring them up because they're same draft class.
Right. We traded for each other.
Yeah. So they're saying Josh Allen MVP is pathetic. Barkley breaks 2K and nothing. I know you're a fan of that. Barkley.
Yeah, I it's basically a quarterback reward. I get it. I just I don't know. It just feels like for the threshold for a non-quarterback to get it is so much higher than a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's just annoying.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Any other lines? Anything else you want to talk about, or do you think we can get out of here?
No, that's great.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching this double episode where we had Andy on, then Kenny. Go Eagles, as Kenny said. I hope they win for my bets, and everyone here rooting for them.
By the way, who's your favorite MVP bets? Just curious.
I did something funny with that. So I made 3 MVP bets for the conspiracy theory that the game is rigged. I bet Travis Kelce at 16-1 because he might propose to Taylor Swift afterward. I think if it's scripted, that's what's going to happen. My long shot is Jalen Carter is 70-1. So he's the best defensive player on the field. So and like you said, Tooney going to left tackle, like that just seems like a great matchup. I am betting Saquon Barkley to MVP with an asterisk. So like his MVP odds are like plus 260. So what I did was I parlayed him to get 110 plus rushing yards and 2+ touchdowns. That took it to like plus 480, I think. And so I think that if he wins MVP, he's going to have that sort of game. Like I can't see him winning MVP and him only having 1 touchdown. Like I feel like if he has to get 2+ touchdowns to win, unless he gets like 250 yards or something, 220. So I like that, and also if it's a high scoring shootout, and like Barkley gets there with 110 plus and 2 touchdowns, and the Chiefs come back and win the game, I still win the bet. So that's what I did in lieu of betting the worst number for MVP. So my pick for MVP is Barkley.
Got it. All right.
Who would you have picked?
Jalen Carter is my favorite. Would be he's 100. He's 75-1 on Hard Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Slew is saying he's 100-1 on FanDuel. That seems really high, but if that's the case, man, that's great value.
Yeah, I looked earlier; it wasn't that. So maybe they moved the odds.
I like your I like your thinking with Carter there. I would say we saw this with Aaron Donaldson. I think there's a chance Jalen Carter takes over this game. So
yeah,
obviously the flu this week makes you nervous. Like, oh man, maybe is he going to be low energy? Is he going to have to take some plays off? Is he not going to be is he not going to be as sharp because he didn't have as good a week of practice? That makes you nervous, and that's always a possibility. But yeah, if I think he's the guy he's emerging as the kind of guy that could win the MVP on the defensive side of the football.
So Bag is saying Zach Bond might be worth it. Yeah, Zach Bond's a big playmaker. He could do it. Like sometimes you see these weird linebackers win MVP because they have like a pick 6 or something. I just think there's like too much offensive firepower in this game for a defensive player to win it. Like even despite my Carter bet. And Stu's right there. It is 101 on FanDuel. Zach Bond is 120-1, which is kind of interesting. You could probably find better odds somewhere else. Yeah, 100-1. Yeah, I looked. It was 60-1 earlier in the week on FanDuel. That's why I didn't bet. I bet the 70-1, which is the best odds I found on DraftKings. I don't know. It's pretty tilting. I had two things like that, man, with FanDuel. I bet the Redskins at 20-1 to win the Super Bowl 60, and one person was like, "That's like the worst bet anyone has ever made." I'm like, no, because people were betting 15-1 a week ago. And so like I was like, yeah, I looked around, 20-1 best number, and then like on the show the following night, someone's like, wait, FanDuel has 22-1. I'm like, what? Like FanDuel didn't have Super Bowl 60 odds when I bet it. Like they were the only site that didn't have it, and then they posted 22-1. I was so pissed. I thought I had a great number at 20-1, but it turns out 22-1. I still like 20-1. I'm not like too upset about it. Like I said, they have the 3rd most cap space. They have Janie Daniels, who I think is a top 5 quarterback already. Maybe he has a sophomore slump, could happen. But like, if they add an elite left tackle and T. Higgins and Myles Garrett, like, which they could definitely do, they have the cap space for it, and people want to go there. Like, and that's what everyone is saying. They're like, we want to play with Janie Daniels. You know, like they could get all the top free agents and just be a powerhouse. Like they're scary. I mean, you're an Eagles fan. Are you terrified of them?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels. I mean, anytime you have a great young quarterback, you're nervous. Although, you know, we've seen this with other guys. We've seen other guys be great, and then the league figures out. We saw this with C.J. Stroud. We saw this with Jalen Hurts. The league has kind of figured out how to play him well in most scenarios. The league has figured out Justin Herbert. The league will figure you out. You put enough tape out there. There's a lot of smart defensive coaches. They'll figure out how to play against you. So then the matter is, can you counter? You know, that they're going to make a move against you. Can you counter their move? So that's yet to be seen. Obviously, can Jaden Daniels do that? My guess is that it's probably yes. My guess is probably he is the kind of guy that's going to have a counter punch in him. Mm-hmm. But I hope not, right? I hope that he swings the counter punch and he tears his tricep, metaphorically speaking.
I like your nice way of hoping injuries. Where you say, I hope he has explosive diarrhea. Bagger says, I think Bond is more likely than Carter if he forces a critical fumble. Yeah, you know, more linebackers have won than defensive tackles. There's only been one defensive tackle who was won Super Bowl MVP. That was Randy White, the Cowboys. But like Carter is that good that he could buck the trend. So, yeah. But then again, like, you know, we saw Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl, did not win. We saw Warren Sapp in the Super Bowl, did not win it. You know.
By the way, did I call him Aaron Donaldson earlier?
Donaldson, yeah. The chocolate milk into you.
It's late. I've been on a goofy schedule the last couple of days. His name is Aaron Donald, by the way, Kenny, not Aaron Donaldson.
Aaron Donaldson.
I don't know. That just came out of my mouth. I don't know why. And then after I said it, I was like, that's not his name. But anyway.
Eagles over 2.5 sacks plus 120. What do you think?
I don't know. That's it. They've not been a great pressure. They've not been a great sack team this year.
They do get a lot of pressure though.
I mean, a lot of pressure, but not a lot of sacks. I don't know where they were at the end of the year, but and it's mostly coverage. They've actually, the Eagles have really struggled generating pass rush from the edges throughout this year. Nolan Smith has come on in the playoffs, which has been awesome. But they've not generated a lot of pass rush from the edges and almost none from the blitz throughout the course of the year. And so they get pressure, but they don't get to the quarterback often. And as slippery as Mr. Mahomes is, 2.5 feels like a tall order.
How many times do you think Mahomes has been sacked this year? Not including the playoffs.
Not including the playoffs? I mean, I can't imagine he was sacked more than 28 times this year.
36 times.
Whoa.
Career high, 36 times. That's how bad the tackles have been. So
that's interesting. I don't think I realized that. All right. I mean, 36 not a super high number, but it's more than I thought.
Yeah. I think over 2.5 sacks is pretty reasonable.
I also I sometimes forget that we play a 17-game season now. I say we like I'm in the league. I kind of forget. So I said 28 thinking a 16-game season. But
yeah. Well, technically he did have a 16-game season because he sat out the last game.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. So all right, guys, that's about it for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in and commenting. Really appreciate it. As always, Kenny, do you want to plug your website here?
TheCapIsFake.com. I've been telling you guys for about 4 months I got content coming. I really do got some content coming in the off season. And so yeah, I'm going to you mentioned the Redskins having all this cap space, but the cap is fake.
Yeah. Where'd you go? There it is. TheCapIsFake.com. Check it out. Lots of content on there. And we'll be back on Saturday with Tom. So There's one more Super Bowl prediction to be made on the show, so looking forward to seeing what Tom has to say. Like I said, I'm going to bet all these predicted scores, just very small bets, and see if one of them hits. But yeah, guys, I hope you have a great start to your weekend. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be appreciated. And yeah, Kenny, great to do the show with you. Rare to do it on a Thursday, but yeah, better late than never, right? So
right.
let's hope that someone here, whether it's you or me or someone in the chat, wins $1 million or at least a share of $1 million on DraftKings.
Right.
That'd be great. All right, guys. Like I said, have a great start to the rest of your weekend, to the start of your weekend, and I will talk to you on Saturday.